Chapter 2691. Hee, you think too much. I can't be devoured. What awaits you is tragedy. The cold voice seemed to come from the depths of hell. It sounded in Knight Sorrow's mind like the explosion of a king-level divine talisman. Even though Knight Sorrow's divine soul had been strengthened to the level of the divine king, he still felt like his divine soul was being torn apart. Brother Knight Sorrow, be careful. Against it, you must protect your heart. Mo Yuqian knew that his voice would distract Knight Sorrow, but he still reminded him, you might have to go through a long process, maybe 1,000 years or even a few reincarnations. But reality only lasts for a moment. Don't be afraid of the passage of time. Okay. Brother, your reminder is very important. Knight Sorrow replied. He felt that Mo Yuqian's reminder was very useful. If he hadn't said that, he would have been worried that he would miss the chance to save Wu Ling concubine if he fought against the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda for too long. Brother Knight Sorrow, don't underestimate it. It's very scary. Otherwise, we wouldn't have fallen for it. Mo Yuqian continued to remind him. In the end, he realized that his emotions had been controlled by the owner of the Sky Bone Pagoda during the battle. Later on, his decisions had been influenced by the other party. Brother, don't worry. Knight Sorrow has never lost in a test of willpower. Knight Sorrow replied Mo Yuqian and wholeheartedly fought against the owner of the Sky Bone Pagoda. Strictly speaking, the other party was just a ball of evil energy. Never lost. That's because you haven't met me. The owner of the Sky Bone Pagoda, the evil voice, exploded in Knight Sorrow's mind. What right do you have to call yourself me? You're just a ball of waste. Knight Sorrow replied as he seriously fought against the owner of the Sky Bone Pagoda. There was no fixed pattern in a battle of divine souls. It wasn't just a battle of divine souls, it was also a battle of willpower. The owner of the Sky Bone Pagoda was a ball of evil energy. It had no emotions and was at the level of the divine king. It was basically invulnerable. Otherwise, Mo Yuqian and the other unrivaled divine lords wouldn't have fallen for it. Waste gas. Very soon, you will become a mindless puppet, even worse than the waste gas. I have yet to refine the merit divine lord's body. The master of the sky-piercing Bone Pagoda said evilly as he launched a powerful attack on Knight Sorrow's divine soul. Yishang's soul felt like smoke being blown by the wind after being attacked by an outsider. He felt as though his soul was drifting. You want to turn me, Knight Sorrow, into a puppet? Such a person doesn't exist. Knight Sorrow, who felt his divine soul becoming more and more violent, began to use all kinds of methods to increase the strength of his divine soul to fight against it. In the beginning, Knight Sorrow felt like he was holding his breath. He felt like he wouldn't be able to hold on for long, but after a while, he gradually got used to the rhythm. Furthermore, under the influence of the power of merit, Knight Sorrow's divine soul gradually became stronger, rising towards the level of a divine lord. This increase in strength put a great deal of pressure on the master of the Sky-Split Bone Pagoda. When Yishang's divine soul was about to reach the divine lord realm, the master of the Sky-Split Bone Pagoda launched a fierce attack on Yishang's divine sea. You overestimate yourself. Not much time had passed in the outside world, but Knight Sorrow felt like he had been fighting against the master of the sky-piercing Bone Pagoda for 300,000 years. After 300,000 years of fighting, the strength of his divine soul seemed to have cultivated for 300,000 years. Although he hadn't officially advanced to the level of a divine lord, he wasn't inferior to an ordinary divine king. Knight Sorrow, who had been shrinking his defenses, completely released his divine soul at this moment to fight against the master of the sky-piercing Bone Pagoda. Brother Knight Sorrow, nothing will happen, right? After all, the opponent is at the level of a divine king. Jiao Kong asked worriedly in the clear sky pagoda as Knight Sorrow's divine soul fought a decisive battle with the master of the sky-piercing Bone Pagoda. My husband has never disappointed anyone. Nothing will happen to him. He will be the master of the sky-piercing bone pagoda. Sikong Chuyu replied confidently after hearing Zhao Kong's words. She had witnessed everything that Knight Sorrow had gone through and had absolute confidence in him. Lin Piaomia recalled the scene of Knight Sorrow's battle outside Tianhuang City and said with certainty, "My husband was born to turn the tide. This test is nothing to him." "All right. I can rest assured then," Zhao Kong said with lingering fear. Recently, Knight Sorrow had been fighting against people of a higher level than him and had even faced the threat of a divine lord. Zhao Kong could be said to be on tenterhooks. The person chosen by the patriarch was really not a simple existence. On the other side, for High Base City, the moment Knight Sorrow destroyed the sky-piercing bone pagoda, the crisis in the outer city had been averted. Most of the cultivators in High Base City cheered as they looked at the gradually brightening blue sky outside the city. At this moment, Yun Tianyi shouted. Many people knew that the person who had saved them was Knight Sorrow and started shouting Knight Sorrow's name. "Everyone, please keep quiet. Currently, Brother Knight Sorrow is still fighting." The cheers were a little loud. Mo Qianqian, who was in the form of a puppet, reminded everyone. Hearing this, the cheering crowd in the city gradually calmed down. They locked their gazes on Knight Sorrow, who was surrounded by a golden aura and a black aura, and silently prayed for him. "Don't worry, you won't be able to affect Knight Sorrow. If I'm not wrong, Knight Sorrow has completely taken the initiative." At this moment, Long Tianqing suddenly flew over from afar. She used the power of her soul to check on Yishang's condition, and then she said something to everyone. "Phew. It's good that Brother Knight Sorrow is fine." Mo Qianqian heaved a long sigh of relief when he heard Long Tianqing's words. However, Long Tianqing looked at Mo Yuqian with a serious expression. "Your condition," they were old acquaintances who had known each other for many years. "You're right. My divine soul will be destroyed. Not only me, but the other 8 invincible divine lords will also be destroyed after the Bone Pagoda's master dies. We're now connected to the Bone Pagoda's master," Mo Qianqian said solemnly. "In other words, only one of you and Knight Sorrow can survive. Am I right?" Long Tianqing's voice was trembling. She had used all her strength to protect Divine Lord Jin Yuan from the sky-piercing Bone Pagoda's master. Now, she was powerless to prevent a tragedy from happening. "I hope that Brother Knight Sorrow survives. It's a blessing for the realm of the gods that he has the initiative," Mo Qianqian said with emotion. "That's right. Rather than living like this, we might as well be completely destroyed." Another invincible divine lord controlled by the sky-piercing Bone Pagoda also said. To these geniuses, what had happened in the past few years was like a nightmare. Let's see if Knight Sorrow can completely kill the other party. Chapter 2692. In the end, the golden light and the black light formed 2 dragons that coiled around Knight Sorrow's body and fought against each other. When the golden dragon was first formed, it was not as thick as the black dragon. However, as time passed, it gradually grew stronger and started to gain the upper hand. Knight Sorrow, who was fighting against the heaven-reaching Bone Pagoda, was in a similar situation. He went from being passive at the start to gaining the upper hand. Impossible. How is this possible? I am the Divine King. How can I lose to a high god like you? The owner of the heaven-reaching Bone Pagoda said in disbelief when Knight Sorrow launched his final attack. You are wrong. In terms of divine soul, I am already a divine lord. As he resisted, Knight Sorrow's divine soul reached the level of a lower divine lord. After his divine soul reached the level of a divine lord, the owner of the heaven-reaching Bone Pagoda was completely suppressed. Very quickly, Knight Sorrow, who had gained the upper hand in the fight, successfully annihilated his opponent. After completely killing the owner of the heaven-reaching Bone Pagoda, Knight Sorrow found a problem. After the owner's divine soul was killed, another deity sea formed beside his deity sea. This deity ocean was in a completely unconscious state. Is it really an unconscious deity sea or a trap left by the owner of the heaven-reaching bone pagoda? Knight Sorrow used his divine soul to sense for a while but did not find the owner of the heaven-reaching bone pagoda. He immediately used his divine soul to enter the deity sea to check. When Knight Sorrow's divine soul entered the deity sea, he found that he had gained control of the deity sea. It was as if the deity sea had recognized him as its owner. What's going on? Will I have two deity seas in the future? Knight Sorrow felt the state of his divine soul and wondered. After testing it, he found that he indeed had two deity seas. Each of them could use the power of the divine soul. However, the new one was slightly weaker than the original. The two divine souls could use the power of the divine soul. They could merge together or do two things at the same time. It was very magical. This should be a good thing, right? As Knight Sorrow was thinking, he suddenly had a thought. He found that the new deity sea's divine soul could control Mo Qian and the other invincible divine lords. Brother. Knight Sorrow used this divine soul to try to communicate with Mo Qian. Brother Knight Sorrow. You are fine. Mo Qian asked doubtfully as he felt the voice in the depths of his soul. He felt that this was a bit strange. In the past, it was always the master of the Bone Pagoda who used this method to communicate with him. I'm fine. The master of the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda should have been completely destroyed. Knight Sorrow Deity C, he continued, after he disappeared, Deity C, Deity CC, Deity, Deity C. Deity CC, Deity Deity. It seems that even if it is destroyed, the 9 of us won't be completely destroyed. God Deity God Deity God, Deity of the hand, Deity Pagoda. Deity soul. Deity of the pagoda. God got it. Bone. After listening to Mo Qian's story, Knight Sorrow said, Brother, don't worry. I will let you and the others regain your freedom. Brother Knight Sorrow, thank you. I didn't expect that I, Mo Qian, would regain my freedom in my lifetime. Mo Qian said with some emotion. After the Heavenly Bone Pagoda's master advanced to the Divine King level, he completely erupted. Not only did he disperse Knight Sorrow's imprint, he also controlled an invincible divine monarch and released all the evil creatures around High Base City. He also controlled the 9 invincible divine monarchs to launch a tide-like attack on High Base City. Now that Knight Sorrow had destroyed him, not only did he save High Base City, he also saved the 9 invincible divine monarchs. Brother, and the others, please wait a moment. I will make some arrangements and find a way to restore your freedom. Knight Sorrow Deity C told Mo Qian and the other 8 invincible divine monarchs before coming back to his senses. He said to his family in the Clear Sky Pagoda, the Heavenly Bone Pagoda's master has been destroyed by me. This storm is over. Good. Little 13, you really didn't disappoint us. Hearing Knight Sorrow's familiar voice, Yang Lei, who was originally very nervous, immediately heaved a sigh of relief. Sikong Chuyu, Lin Piaomiao and the others, who were very confident in Knight Sorrow, also heaved a sigh of relief. The others in the Clear Sky Pagoda were also the same. After all, Knight Sorrow had become their backbone now. Knight Sorrow's grandfather, Yiling Huan, was sure that he had overcome the crisis. He coughed and said, now that the crisis is over, everyone should seize the time to cultivate. So that we don't have to hide here the next time we encounter a battle. Yes. Grandfather's words make sense. Jing Yun will work hard to become stronger. Among the people present, Jing Yun, as a divine monarch, was very strong. As long as she improved a little more, she would be able to fight side by side with Knight Sorrow. I won't fall behind either. Lin Piaomiao, who had the sovereign bloodline in her body, also did not want to fall behind. She realized that after the sovereign bloodline appeared, her cultivation speed was doubled with half the effort. Her strength increased at an extremely fast speed. Good. All of you are good. But you are all a female army. The men of the Night Moon Empire have to work hard. Yi Linghuan said with a smile. These words made some of the people present think of Yi Xiaoluo, Yi Lingxi, and Yi Xiaokei, who had gone out to train. Now, all of them had gone out to train and there was no news of them. I wonder how the three children are doing now. Thinking of Yi Xiaoluo and the others, Datura could not help but sigh worriedly. Their talents are so outstanding. No matter where they are now, they should be able to develop well. Xueshi replied and said, I believe that when our immortal divine territory is established, they will rush back. Yes. I believe that the three of them will come back strong. Lin Piaomiao thought of her son, Yi Xiaokei. Although she was worried, she was similarly confident. Because not only was he Knight Soro's son, but he also might have inherited his sovereign bloodline. In terms of talent, he should be ranked in the top in the entire divine realm. While the women were lamenting, Knight Soro was currently conversing with Long Tianqing, inquiring about her injuries. He also told her what sect Master Shao Tianxian said before. Hearing that there was news of the Heavenly Luan Myriad Transformations pill, Long Tianqing was very happy and said, Now, Big Brother Yuan's condition is already stable. As long as we get the Heavenly Luan Myriad Transformations pill, he can completely recover. Next, you let Brother Qian and the rest regain their freedom first. Alright, I have the same intention. When Knight Soro heard this, he did not hesitate and controlled the second divine sea to release Mo Youqian's divine soul control. Chapter 2693. Completely recover. Not only will we regain our freedom, but we will also have the chance to completely recover. Become a cultivator with flesh and blood. One of the puppet-turned-invincible divine lords exclaimed in disbelief when he heard Knight Soro's words. Today's events had given him hope of being reborn after countless years of despair. This was something he had never dared to dream of. If we can really recover, I suggest that we all work for Brother Knight Soro. This is the only way we can repay him. Mo Qianqian, who was also very excited, said. He now felt that helping Knight Soro in the Endless Bone Realm was the best decision he had ever made in his life. It was the exact opposite of nurturing Wuxin. Knight Soro hurriedly shook his head when he heard Mo Qianqian's words. Brother, you're too polite. If not for your help in the Endless Bone Realm, I wouldn't have been able to obtain the Genesis Essence to strengthen my body. Without the Genesis Essence, I would have already died in battle in the Endless Bone Realm. How could I be where I am today? Little brother Knight Soro, there's no need to be so polite. Let alone these small favors, even if it's a bigger favor, what you've done today is more than enough to repay. The Heavenly Luan 1000 Transformations pill will definitely allow you to continue taking risks. That will be a new favor. Mo Qianqian said politely. He felt that Knight Soro had already done him a great favor by shattering the heaven-reaching bone tower and saving him. If he accepted the Heavenly 1000 Transformations pill but did nothing, he wouldn't be able to overcome the barrier in his heart. That's right. Brother Knight Soro, there's no need to be so polite. Whether or not you have the Heavenly 1000 Transformations pill, Xiong Nanyue, will follow your lead in the future. Xiong Nanyue, the tallest puppet among the 9 divine lords, said in a deep voice. After he spoke, the remaining 7 divine lords also spoke one after another, saying that they would follow Knight Soro no matter what. When they had been controlled by the master of the heaven-reaching bone tower, their lives had been worse than death. Knight Soro had saved them today, which was akin to giving them a new lease of life. Even the coldest person would show some gratitude. If no one has a place to go, Night Sorrow will establish the immortal divine domain after breaking through to the Divine Lord realm. If you have family or sect, I suggest you choose to return. Looking at the few invincible Sir gods who had been turned into puppets, Night Sorrow said. These words were equivalent to giving them true freedom, allowing them to choose their future path according to their wishes. When the few invincible Sir gods present heard Night Sorrow's words, they felt very comfortable. Seeing that the matter had come to an end, Long Tianqing asked, Night Sorrow, when can we head to the secret realm? At the very least, I'll have to wait until I'm a divine sovereign. I heard that it was the sovereign's Tao Right temple. Although the sovereign's essence has been taken away, there are still other resources there. I'm afraid that it will cause a large-scale struggle. Night Sorrow transmitted his voice to Long Tianqing. He didn't want the matter of Nine Heaven Divine Palace to be exposed. If the Divine King or even the sovereigns came to fight for it, things would get troublesome. After all, Shao Tianxian had only told this to him. That makes sense. We'll head there after you've stabilized your strength. Long Tianqing nodded and transmitted her voice. I was too anxious. From the looks of it, with your strength, you can definitely defeat Ling Yun. Shall I bring you to find him? All right. Senior Tianqing, Night Sorrow has the same intention. Night Sorrow and Long Tianqing discussed this matter for a while before looking at Mo Yuqian and the others. If you don't have a place to stay for the time being, you can enter my spatial artifact to cultivate. After Night Sorrow spoke, Mo Yuqian and the others, who had no choice, entered the Clear Sky Pagoda. This spatial artifact is incredible. The god's spiritual energy is so strong, and the spatial acceleration is at least 10 times faster. Mo Yuqian was shocked to discover that Night Sorrow's Clear Sky Pagoda was comparable to the Sky-Reaching Bone Pagoda. After all, Night Sorrow was just an ordinary feather god a few years ago. It's indeed incredible. Even the Divine King, who has accumulated a lot of experience, might not have such a spatial artifact. Long Tianqing, who had entered the Clear Sky Pagoda to observe, was an array formation expert. She also praised. You're too kind. Night Sorrow was just lucky. Night Sorrow introduced everyone in the Clear Sky Pagoda before coming to the area where the Divine King of the Golden Crow tribe, Jin Ye, was in seclusion. Lord Night Sorrow. You're here. When he saw Yi Shang appear, Jin Ye, who had been meditating and recovering from his injuries, immediately stood up and spoke respectfully. No need to be so polite. Just call me Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow replied and asked, do you know why I didn't summon you when I was fighting against the dark creatures? This should be because Lord Night Sorrow had absolute confidence in defeating the other party. Jin Ye asked doubtfully. He didn't omit the word Lord. In fact, I didn't have absolute confidence in winning. But if you took action, I wouldn't be able to obtain a lot of power of virtue. I wouldn't be able to advance my power of virtue to the Divine Lord level. I wouldn't be able to break through to the Divine Lord level in other aspects. This can be considered as seeking fortune in danger. Night Sorrow explained. He couldn't be bothered to argue about how to address Jin Ye. Since Jin Ye called him that so easily, he didn't fuss about it. Jin Ye looked at Yi Shang and asked, Lord Yi Shang, is something the matter for you to come over now? Next, I'll be following Senior Long Tianqing to find an enemy and fight to the death with him. Now that Senior Long Tianqing is injured, I need to use the time on the road to cultivate and prepare to advance my cultivation to the Divine Lord level. So I need to trouble you to protect everyone's safety on the road. Night Sorrow said slowly. Jin Ye smiled and said, isn't this my duty after leaving the Golden Crow ancient realm? All right. Then I'll have to trouble Mr. Jin Ye. Night Sorrow said politely when he saw Jin Ye agree. It's no trouble, no trouble. It's my honor to be able to do something for Night Sorrow and form good karma. Jin Ya was extremely shocked when he thought that Night Sorrow could defeat the Divine King. After all, there wasn't even an example of a Divine Lord defeating the Divine King in the Divine Realm. Moreover, Night Sorrow's cultivation speed also broke his understanding. Jin Ya felt that one day, Night Sorrow might be strong enough to sweep across the entire Divine Realm. Mr. Jin Ya, you're too polite. Since that's the case, I'll have to trouble you. I still have some things to take care of, so I'll go first. Night Sorrow said to Jin Ya and walked out of the Clear Sky Pagoda because he noticed that Yuntiani and Zhuanghe had already walked out of High Base City. After exiting the Clear Sky Pagoda, he went up to them. Brother Yi. People always say that a scholar who has been away for 3 days must be looked at with new eyes. This sentence is simply a perfect fulfillment for you. It hasn't been long since we last met, and not only can you rely on your own strength to kill so many Divine Lord level dark creatures, you can even fight against the Divine King. This really shocked everyone. Chapter 2694. Tianyi, since when did you become such a bootlicker? When Yishang saw the two of them approaching, he smiled and replied politely, Elder Zhuanghe, I'm sorry. Long time no see. Night Sorrow, you're already close to the peak of the celestial realm. Even the Divine King is no match for you. Zhuanghe smiled and continued, I'm no longer an elder of the Dark Alliance. Oh. What's going on? Night Sorrow asked. Sigh. Alliance Master Ao Qingyun is too narrow-minded. Tianyi and I have fallen out with him. We have nowhere else to go, so we're going to join Night Sorrow. What do you think? Zhuanghe said with a smile. He was still a high god at the moment, but his aura was extraordinary. If the two of you choose to join us, I, Night Sorrow, will welcome you with open arms. Night Sorrow mentioned the immortal dominion with a smile. His goal was to build a dominion that was on par with the sovereigns. This required a lot of talent. Especially trustworthy people, he needed a lot of them. He welcomed Zhuanghe and Yuntiani to join him. Yuntiani immediately smiled. Brother Yi, I didn't expect you to leave Tianyun School and start your own sect. That's great, we brothers can make a name for ourselves. Making a name for ourselves is a must. But if we build a dominion, we won't be targeted by the sovereigns. If we want to expand, we'll have to go against the Divine King's forces. Although we can fight against the Divine King, we don't have many forces under us. If we go to war, we won't be able to do anything. Yishang voiced his concern. Currently, the immortal divine realm lacked talents. That's indeed a problem. But it's not hard to get close. As long as we have the resources, many cultivators will join us. Zhuanghe pondered for a moment and said, How big is the immortal dominion's territory? I'm not sure yet. Once I'm done here, I'll go look for Hegemony and I. As for how big it is, that will depend on his mood. Night Sorrow said with a smile. To him, it didn't matter how big the immortal domain was in the early stages. As long as he could stabilize the Night Moon Empire and his friends, that was enough. I heard that Ling Yun is quite talented. Among divine lords, he's considered very hard to deal with. When Night Sorrow mentioned Ling Yun, Yuntiani said worriedly. Now that I can even fight against the Divine King, killing Ling Yun shouldn't be too difficult. Upon hearing Yuntiani's words, Night Sorrow asked in confusion. After all, Yuntiani and Zhuanghe had just witnessed his battle with the owner of the sky-reaching bone pagoda on the city wall. I'm not sure what exactly happened, but I heard that Ling Yun was extremely evil. It seems that no one who went against him had a good ending. Yuntiani said with uncertainty. Before this, he didn't know that Night Sorrow had a feud with Ling Yun, but he had heard about him. It was clear that Ling Yun had a certain reputation in the realm of the gods. The last time I saw him was not many years ago. Back then, he was a divine lord. No matter how strong he is now, he shouldn't be that strong, right? Knight Sorrow felt that his cultivation speed had already created a legend in the realm of the gods. No matter how fast Ling Yun's cultivation speed was, it was unlikely that he was stronger than him. Even so, you still have to be careful. After all, in the realm of the gods, there are too many cases of people failing miserably. Elder Zhuang, he reminded him solemnly. He had also heard some things about Ling Yun and felt that something was amiss. All right. I'll be extra careful. Knight Sorrow replied. He looked into the distance and asked, that city lord Ao Fang's son, Ao Qingyun, right? Seeing Ao Qingyun rushing over with his men, Yun Tianyi said with disdain, it's him. I really misjudged him in the past. After all, he's the descendant of a wise man. There are some things that should be forgiven if it's possible. Knight Sorrow was originally a little annoyed that Ao Qingyun did not send help. However, he felt that the other party's choice was actually pardonable, so he did not take it to heart. He was confident that he would definitely win. He did not even call out Jin Ye, but the other party did not know his trump card. Ha! Brother Yi, hearing about you is not as good as meeting you in person. I've heard so much about you. Ao Qingyun did not open the door just now out of consideration for the safety of the hundreds of millions of people in Haibei City. Please don't take it to heart, brother Knight Sorrow. Knight Sorrow was communicating with Yun Tianyi in Zhuanghe through voice transmission when Ao Qingyun, who was thousands of miles away, greeted him. Hello, brother Ao. Knight Sorrow admires you and your father very much. Knight Sorrow said with cupped fists. One would not slap a smiling face. Although Ao Qingyun had acted unfavorably toward Yun Tianyi back then, nothing had happened in the end, so he did not want to take it to heart. Brother Knight Sorrow has saved the entire Haibei city. As the city lord, Ao Qingyun invites Brother Yi to the city for a chat and give the people a chance to see your glory. After getting closer, Ao Qingyun said politely and continued, I've already asked my wife to prepare a banquet. Why don't you, Brother Yi, Brother Yun, and Elder Zhuang come to my residence for a chat? We've already fallen out. What's there to chat about? Upon hearing Ao Qingyun's words, Yun Tianyi retorted angrily. Zhuang he was more magnanimous and advised, Tianyi, don't speak like that. After all, the city lord of Qingyun City once saved our lives. Then, he looked at Knight Sorrow and said, Brother Knight Sorrow, if it's not too urgent, why don't you have a meal before leaving? All right. Since the city lord of Qingyun City invited me and Elder Zhuang he said so, then Knight Sorrow will impose on you for a day. Knight Sorrow glanced at Yun Tianyi, indicating that there was no need, and then replied. Ao Qingyun's eyes lit up when he heard that. He made an inviting gesture and said, Brother Knight Sorrow, please. All right. Let's go. At this time, Long Tianqing, Jin Ye, and the rest were all in the clear heaven pagoda and did not appear. Only Yun Tianyi and Zhuang He were by Knight Sorrow's side. He replied and walked in front. When they approached the city gates of Haibei City, a large number of cultivators had already gathered at the city walls. When they saw Knight Sorrow coming, they immediately shouted the words, Hero. Ao Qingyun smiled when he saw the reaction of the crowd, and he said, This is Brother Yi Shang who saved my seaside city from danger. Everyone must remember today's kindness. Knight Sorrow. Knight Sorrow. Knight Sorrow. When the crowd was shouting, some of the people who had some contact with Knight Sorrow discovered that he was the Knight Sorrow who had mingled in the Sea and Sky Bazaar back then and caused a ruckus at Treasure Gathering Pavilion. Immediately, they felt more familiar and spread the word among the crowd. Hearing the crowd's discussion, some of the other cultivators looked at Knight Sorrow with even more different gazes. Some people even began to shout for Knight Sorrow to be the city lord. Ao Qingyun's face changed slightly when he heard that, but he suppressed it very well. Chapter 2695. City Lord. Upon hearing Ao Qingyun's words, Knight Sorrow glanced at him and said, "I'm not interested." Oh. Ao Qingyun responded and didn't continue speaking. Yun Tianyi whispered, "I'm afraid he has an ulterior motive." Seeing that Yun Tianyi was still muttering, Zhuang He immediately transmitted his voice, "Tianyi. After all, we're working together. There's no need to make things so awkward. After today, we won't have any more disputes with the alliance leader. Let's not continue today." "All right. I'll give Elder Zhuang face and won't say anything else. But I feel that Ao Qingyun must be up to something by inviting us to his residence for a meal." Yun Tianyi replied with a gloomy expression. "If it's up to something, I think the city lord wants to show that he knows Brother Knight Sorrow. This can be considered as getting closer to him." Zhuang He continued to transmit his voice to Yun Tianyi. Yun Tianyi grunted and said, "I hope so." At this time, Ao Qingyun had been chatting with Knight Sorrow. In the eyes of outsiders, their relationship seemed to be very close. Walking back into Haibei City, where he had once stopped, Knight Sorrow felt very emotional. However, he had no intention of revisiting the old place. Accompanied by Ao Qingyun and the rest, Knight Sorrow, Yun Tianyi, and Zhuang He slowly walked into the city lord's residence. This city lord's residence was the one that Sheng Guanyun had used back then. When they arrived at the backyard of the city lord's residence, the food and wine were already prepared. Ao Qingyun hurriedly let Knight Sorrow take a seat. "City lord, you should sit in the main seat. If Knight Sorrow sits anywhere, won't he be stealing the limelight?" In the face of Ao Qingyun's invitation, Knight Sorrow declined and casually found a seat to sit down. Yun Tianyi and Zhuang He sat beside him. Brother Knight Sorrow, let's sit together now. There are some things that I have to explain. When you were fighting the dark creatures just now, I was thinking for the sake of the people of Seaside City. That's why I didn't activate the formation." After sitting at the main seat, Ao Qingyun hurriedly explained. Then he said, "You also know that there aren't enough experts in the city. Facing the Divine King, it's very likely that all of them will be killed. Even if I have to bear the infamy of inaction, I cannot let the people of Haibei City take such a risk. Since it's all in the past, let's not talk about it anymore." Knight Sorrow replied indifferently. As far as he was concerned, it didn't matter what the other party chose. However, he wouldn't associate himself with the other party. Good. Brother Yi is so straightforward. Ao Qingyun laughed boldly. He looked to his left and right and said, "Why don't you pay your respects to the great hero of our Haibei City?" "Yes. Understood." The two divine lords who had attacked Yun Tianyi and Zhuang He first each toasted Knight Sorrow before raising their cups to apologize to Yun Tianyi and Zhuang He. After they made peace, Ao Qingyun said, "Brother Knight Sorrow, what kind of bow did you use in the battle? Why does it feel like it's even stronger than a king-grade divine artifact?" "I say, City Lord Ao, isn't it a little impolite to inquire about someone else's divine artifact like this?" Yun Tianyi, who had already fallen silent, immediately glared at Ao Qingyun when he heard his question. Knight Sorrow's divine artifact was a life-saving measure. How could he casually inquire about it? Ao Qingyun smiled awkwardly when he heard Yun Tianyi's words. He said, "It's Qingyun who took it for granted. I'll punish myself with 3 cups of wine." After drinking 3 cups of wine, Ao Qingyun paused for a moment before continuing. "Now that Haibei City's crisis has been resolved, I wonder where Brother Knight Sorrow plans to go next. Are you still going back to Tianyun School? I heard that the Cloud Immortal continent is currently embroiled in war. I wonder if it's true. Extraterrestrial demons have infiltrated the Cloud Immortal continent. They are indeed embroiled in war. Knight Sorrow had the power of merit. When Ao Qingyun said this, he could sense that something was amiss. He seemed to be trying to get information out of him. He responded and continued, I might not go to Tianyun School. Instead, I'll go to Tianyun School to cultivate in the area ruled by Tianyun. Oh. So that's how it is. Ao Qingyun's eyes flashed with surprise when he heard Knight Sorrow's words. Then, he returned to normal. He asked the servant, why isn't Madam's best 3 lifetimes cake served today? City Lord, Madam should still be making it. After all, there's too little time. One of the maidservants immediately replied. Hurry her up, Ao Qingyun said with a gloomy expression. Hearing this, the maidservant immediately ran out of the courtyard where everyone was eating. Not long after, she returned to the courtyard with a tray of exquisite pastries. He reported, City Lord, the 3 lives 3 generations cake is ready. Good. Why aren't you serving it to the guests? Ao Qingyun glared at the maidservant and ordered. Yes. The maidservant, who was reprimanded, quickly ran to Knight Sorrow and the others and gave each of them a piece of the cake. What kind of cake is this? Is it very special? Yun Tianyi asked nonchalantly as she looked at the 3 lifetimes cake placed in front of her. Haha, since I value it so much, it's naturally not ordinary. Ao Qingyun smiled proudly and said, only my wife knows the recipe and method of making this 3 lifetimes cake. After eating 1 piece of this cake, it will immediately increase a cultivator's comprehension ability. It will also lead the consumer into an ethereal world. Enter an ethereal world. Zhuang He immediately asked curiously when he heard Ao Qingyun's words. Yes. After eating a piece of 3 lifetimes cake, one's mind will immediately enter a world called the Cloud Wilderness where one can experience 3 lifetimes. It's very mysterious. Ao Qingyun replied. She continued, don't underestimate this 3 lifetimes cake. It's extremely helpful for cultivation. It's beneficial for cultivation. When she heard that, Yun Tianyi said disdainfully, it's just a piece of cake. How can it have such a great effect? Tianyi, don't doubt it. It's just that mysterious. Ao Qingyun smiled and said, if you don't believe me, try it and see how effective it is. Fine, I'll try it. I'm not afraid that you'll poison it. Yun Tianyi said angrily as she grabbed a piece of 3 lifetimes cake and ate it. After eating the pastry, Yun Tianyi's eyes quickly became blurry. Before long, he fell into a deep slumber. Knight Sorrow, who was sitting beside Yun Tianyi, called out to him softly but realized that there was no response. He asked worriedly, Tianyi should be fine, right? He's fine. He's definitely fine. And he'll definitely benefit from it. Ao Qingyun patted her chest and promised. After Ao Qingyun said that, Yun Tianyi actually shed tears. Not long after, she smiled again. About an hour later, she finally woke up from her unconscious state. Tianyi, how do you feel? Knight Sorrow immediately asked when he saw that Yun Tianyi had woken up. I really experienced 3 lifetimes. After experiencing all that, I feel that my Tao heart has become more stable and my comprehension ability has increased significantly. Yun Tianyi, who was originally very suspicious of Ao Qingyun, said slowly. I knew that this cake is very mysterious. Chapter 2696. 3 Lives 3 Worlds Cake. Knight Sorrow glanced at City Lord Ao Qingyun and nodded. All right. I'll give it a try. With that, he took a piece and popped it into his mouth. Great. Brother Knight Sorrow, you're really a straightforward person. Enjoy the taste of 3 lives 3 worlds. If nothing goes wrong, you'll get a great harvest. A trace of a smile appeared on Ao Qingyun's face when he saw Yi Shang eat the 3 lifetimes cake. Why do I feel like this guy's smile is up to no good? Yun Tianyi sent a voice transmission to Zhuang He when he saw Ao Qingyun's expression. You must be thinking too much. The alliance leader shouldn't be that kind of person. Zhuang He had always had a good impression of Ao Qingyun. After all, he was the son of the old city lord, Ao Fang, and he had indeed saved many of Hai-Base City's geniuses. I hope so. Yun Tianyi sighed in his voice transmission. Tianyi, be careful. Ao Qingyun is hostile. At that moment, the Divine King's memories in Yun Tianyi's body suddenly reminded him. Yes. Patriarch. Yun Tianyi responded and sent a voice transmission to Night Sorrow. Brother Yi, Ao Qingyun might be plotting against us. However, Night Sorrow didn't respond. Clearly, he had already entered the 3 lives 3 worlds cake state. In fact, that was the case. After eating the 3 lives 3 worlds cake, Night Sorrow began his first life. He had experienced this before, but the feeling that the 3 lives 3 worlds cake gave him was too real. In this first life, Night Sorrow was a fisherman. He didn't have a single family and spent his days in a boat on the river, looking like he had nothing to do. In Night Sorrow's subconscious mind, he was an extremely hardworking person. Faced with a situation where he had nothing to do, he kept thinking of ways to change the situation. However, no matter how hard he tried, there seemed to be no change. Moreover, the situation became worse and worse. Gradually, the fish in the river all became demons. He went from fishing to being chased by fish. Moreover, no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't get off the boat. They could only flee on the river. In the end, because the fish spirit was too powerful, he was swallowed into the stomach of a big fish, and his situation became even more sullen. It was simply too heart-wrenching. Would I, Night Sorrow, feel so aggrieved? Trapped in the fish's stomach, Night Sorrow's mood became extremely depressed. However, he was only an ordinary person here. He didn't have any divine essence force in his body, and he couldn't use the power of his divine soul. The torment in his heart was too great. Elder Zhuang He, Ao Qingyun wants to deal with us. But Brother Yi has fallen into a deep sleep and can't wake up. Yun Tianyi, who called out to Night Sorrow but did not get a response, knew that he had entered the 3 lives cake state. She immediately sent a worried voice transmission to Zhuang He. Tianyi, you're probably overthinking things. Zhuang He glanced at Ao Qingyun and saw that he was chatting happily with the people around him. No, absolutely not. Elder Zhuang He, can't you see that his aura has changed? Yun Tianyi said somewhat angrily. I don't feel anything strange. Zhuang He smiled. His smile was a little strange. You're Ao Qingyun's man. No wonder you keep speaking up for him. Yun Tianyi immediately said angrily when she saw Zhuang He's strange smile. All this time, she felt that Zhuang He was on the same side as her. He knew what was right and what was right. She didn't expect Zhuang He to completely change his attitude at this time. Ha ha ha. I, Zhuang He, am the alliance leader's man. You only realized it now. Aren't you a little too slow? Zhuang He laughed and didn't send a voice transmission. Instead, he directly replied. Ha! Yun Tianyi, oh Yun Tianyi, you've been dancing with me. Now that Night Sorrow has fallen into a deep sleep, let's see where you can escape to now. At this time, Ao Qingyun's expression darkened as he slammed the table. Yun Tianyi's cultivation talent was very good, but she only barely broke through to the God-Lord realm with the help of the Divine King's bloodline. She was no match for Ao Qingyun and his subordinates. Ao Qingyun, so you invited us for a meal because of your wild ambitions? Yun Tianyi said angrily. At this time, Knight Sorrow was in a deep sleep. He felt a chill down his spine. Ha! A half-step godlord actually dares to wander around with a sovereign divine artifact. You're courting death. Ao Qingyun's eyes turned from their original black to red, looking extremely evil. You're not the original alliance leader. What are you? Yun Tianyi asked in shock when he saw Ao Qingyun's change. Ha! Your Dark Alliance has always been jumping around in my territory. I was only busy trying to break through to a higher realm in the past, so I didn't explode. Otherwise, how could you have saved so many evildoers? After Ao Qingyun's voice turned cold, it made people tremble. At this time, it wasn't just him. Zhuang He and the others' eyes also gradually turned from black to red. You're Wu Axian? Yun Tianyi asked with a face filled with fear when he heard the other party's words. Knight Sorrow was in a deep sleep. If the other party was really Wu Axian, he had no chance of winning. Since you've guessed it's me, why don't you kneel and beg for mercy? Wu Axian, who had Ao Qingyun completely under his control, threatened with a cold smile. Bah! Yun Tianyi, would rather die in battle than kneel to a beast like you. Yun Tianyi said angrily. Wu Axian was clearly the main culprit behind the destruction of his family. How could he kneel when he hated him so much? Ha! Not kneeling. That's not up to you. Wu Axian, who was controlling Ao Qingyun with his divine spirit, released his god domain. Ao Qingyun, who was originally a godlord, actually released his king-level god domain. Under his pressure, everyone present knelt. You're not here in your true form. Why are you pretending? Faced with the king-level god domain's pressure, Yun Tianyi immediately activated his bloodline to resist it. It doesn't matter whether you're here or not. What matters is that you can't withstand my pressure. Knight Sorrow, who is trapped in the 3 lifetimes tribulation, can't withstand it either. The sovereign divine artifact is mine, Wu Axian. Wu Axian, who was controlling Ao Qingyun, laughed proudly. I'm afraid you're celebrating too early. At this time, Jin Ya walked out of the Clear Sky Pagoda with Shao Kong's help. He released his god domain to help Yun Tianyi resist the other party's god domain. The middle-level divine king of the Golden Crow clan? You've hidden yourself well. When Knight Sorrow fought against the sky-piercing Bone Pagoda's owner, you didn't even show up. Wu Axian smiled coldly when he saw Jin Ya. There's still Long Tianqing. Why didn't you come out? Humph. Wu Axian, you despicable, shameless, and ungrateful villain. Long Tianqing, who walked out of the Clear Sky Pagoda, immediately rebuked Wu Axian angrily when she thought of how he had swindled resources from the Zhenyuan Divine Lord and turned around to harm High Base City. So what if I'm despicable and shameless? So what if I'm ungrateful? In the divine world, strength speaks for itself. Chapter 2697. Wu Axian, you think you can take on 2 divine king with this body of yours? I think you're overconfident. Long Tianqing's face turned cold when she saw that. After she appeared, she completely suppressed Wu Axian's divine territory. You're really ignorant and stupid. Why did I lead you here? Isn't it because I set up a king-level formation in the city? Wu Axian laughed and shook his head. Knight Sorrow's luck is indeed outstanding, but he doesn't have a brain. Now he's trapped in the 1,000 tribulation nightmare. Isn't it 3 lives, 3 worlds? Hearing Wu Axian's words, Yun Tianyi immediately worried about Knight Sorrow. Ha. You're really naive. If I didn't give you the real 3 lives, 3 worlds cake, how would he fall for it? Wu Axian laughed. Yours is 3 lives, 3 worlds, and it's good for cultivation. He'll be trapped in the nightmare forever. You shouldn't be called Wu Axian. You should be called shameless. Hearing Wu Xian's words, Yuntiani immediately rebuked him. At the same time, he felt sorry for Night Sorrow. If it weren't for the good feedback he brought, Night Sorrow probably wouldn't have eaten the poison cake. So what if I'm shameless? If you like it, I'll change my name to Shameless. At the same time, Wu Xian wantonly laughed and ordered, "Open the 3 Divine King Great Array." The 3 Divine King Formations. Long Tianqing and Jin Ye's expressions turned grave when they heard this. They knew about the king-level defense formations of High Bay City. However, they had never heard of the other 3 king-level defense formations and couldn't figure out what they were. Now you're scared. It's too late. After Wu Xian gave the order, the entire city lord's mansion changed its appearance. Long Tianqing, Jin Ye, Yuntiani, and Night Sorrow were all trapped in a huge stone prison. This stone prison was a king-level defense formation. It was like a hollowed egg with no exit at all. Let me try attacking. Being trapped inside the array formation, everyone naturally would not allow themselves to be captured without putting up a fight. Jin Ye immediately condensed divine essence energy and bombarded the stone prison's walls. However, his attack was like hitting cotton. There was no response at all, not even the slightest sound. How could this be? Although Jin Ye was the Divine King, he had never seen such a strange spell formation before. His expression became even more solemn. This looks like the heaven-shrouding sun formation. It said that only the creator of the world can break it. Long Tianqing, who also had an unsightly expression, was clearly more knowledgeable than Jin Ye. She voiced her opinion. Hearing this, Wu Xian smiled and replied, "Long Tianqing, as expected of a 3rd-generation elite of the dragons, you have good insight. But so what if you know? You'll never be able to break this formation. Right now, my true body is already on the way. When my men and I arrive, all of you will die." Wu Xian, there's a saying that goes, "Those who commit too much injustice will bring about their own destruction. You'll die miserably in the future." Recalling Wu Xian's actions, Yuntiani gnashed his teeth in hatred. However, he did not have the ability to fight back, so he could only suppress the anger in his heart. "Even if I die, it will be a long time in the future. In less than 3 days, my true body will arrive. At that time, all of you will suffer a fate worse than death." Wu Xian ridiculed everyone and said proudly, "When I obtain the Dominator Divine Weapon and experience the Dominator Law within, my strength will definitely increase by leaps and bounds. It's even possible for me to break through to the Dominator rank sooner. This Yi Shang is really a boy who gives out treasures. He's a psychopath. We don't need to pay attention to him. Let's see how Night Sorrow is doing." Yuntiani disdainfully said to Wu Xian and turned to look at Night Sorrow. At this moment, Night Sorrow was placed on a stone bed by Long Tianqing. He looked extremely frightened as he slept, his expression somewhat malevolent. Brother Yi, who has fallen into a deep sleep, is probably suffering from an attack on his spirit. Otherwise, it wouldn't be like this. Yuntiani judged. This was the judgment made by the Divine King in his body. Otherwise, with his eyesight, he would not be able to see anything. Yes. Night Sorrow is suffering from an attack on his spirit. Wu Xian's methods are not simple. Long Tianqing said worriedly when she saw Night Sorrow's expression. Normally, in order to survive such an attack, one's spirit must be extremely powerful. I hope Lord Night Sorrow can survive. Jin Ye's words were also filled with worry. Along the way, he had seen Night Sorrow's performance. As the Divine King, he was full of admiration. According to my understanding of Brother Yi, he's not someone who is easily tricked. Why is it like this today? Yuntiani, who continued to observe Night Sorrow, said in puzzlement. Maybe it's because he defeated the dark evil creature and relaxed, so he wasn't vigilant. Jin Ye sighed. Sigh. Brother Yi is like this now. The alliance leader and the elders should all be under Wu Axion's control. Why did things develop like this? Thinking of the alliance leader, Ao Qingyun, and elder Zhuang He, Yun Tianyi felt very upset. At this moment, he thought of the incident on the city wall and thought to himself that he should have thought of the alliance leader's abnormality. Ao Qingyun had a righteous personality. It was impossible for him to choose to bide his time under the circumstances. It will be fine. Everything will be fine. Brother Night Sorrow is the person who created the world. As long as he wakes up, we can leave this place. At this moment, Xian Jizi walked out of the clear sky pagoda and said, Yes. Brother Yi seems to have ascended from the lower realm. He's the same as Sovereign Tianyi, a person who created the world. Hearing Xian Jizi's words, Yun Tianyi's face immediately became excited. Obviously, if Night Sorrow wasn't the person who created the world, they wouldn't have the ability to break the formation at all. What they needed now was for Night Sorrow to wake up. Night Sorrow is the person who created the world. Wu Axion, who was standing outside the formation and watching the situation inside, immediately became serious when he heard Xian Jizi's words. But then he calmed down and said, So what if he is? If he doesn't wake up, it's useless no matter how powerful he is. At the same time, his main body sped up and rushed toward Hai Bei City. Because the place where Wu Axion originally cultivated was not the Wu Axion divine realm and was rather far from Hai Bei City, it would take a few days. In these few days, Long Tianqing and Yun Tianyi took care of Night Sorrow in every way possible, but he still didn't wake up, which made everyone a little anxious. After all, Night Sorrow was equivalent to carrying the lives of everyone present on his shoulders. If he didn't wake up, not only would Long Tianqing, Jin Ye, and Yun Tianyi suffer misfortune. Night Moon Dynasty, the Horn Clan, Xiao Tianchuan's family, as well as Night Sorrow's group of friends, they would all become fish on the chopping board. Husband, hurry and wake up from your nightmare. Chapter 2698. Chuyu, don't call hubby. His current situation is very dangerous. Jing Yun, who also walked out of the vast heaven pagoda, reminded. She was clear that people who fell into a nightmare were most afraid of external disturbances. Okay. I won't say any more. Sikong Chuyu responded. Seeing Night Sorrow's expression was very hideous, and his head was covered in sweat. Taking out a handkerchief, he gently wiped him. The others stood by the side, sighing repeatedly. Ha! Night Sorrow's strength isn't much, but his luck is indeed pretty good. Not only does he have a sovereign-rank divine artifact, but his wives and concubines are also as beautiful as flowers. All of you listen well. Very soon, you will all become my slaves. Wu Xin, who used his divine soul to suppress Ao Qingyun, provoked when he saw Night Sorrow's beautiful wives walk out of the vast heaven pagoda. Stop dreaming. When hubby wakes up, you will die without a burial ground. Hearing Wu Xin's provocation, Lin Piaomiao immediately responded. Observing Lin Piaomiao, Wu Xin praised, Remarkable, remarkable. Your bloodline talent is simply heaven-defying. I must have you and sleep with you. With just the likes of you, you're not worthy at all. Lin Piaomiao said disdainfully. Wu Xin said energetically, Whether I'm worthy or not, you have to try before you know. Beauty, this seat will arrive very soon. You better get ready. Get lost. I don't talk to dead people. Lin Piaomiao scolded and ignored Wu Xin. Ha, personality. I like it. After Wu Xin said this coldly, a smile appeared on his face. He sensed that his main body was already not far away. Wu Xin's main body seems to be here. Night Sorrow hasn't woken up yet. What should we do? Wu Xin was silent. Looking at Long Tianqing, who was Night Sorrow, he said. Counter soldiers with arms, water with an earth weir. Jing Nie said. Although he did not have much contact, he felt that Night Sorrow would not be so easily dealt with. That's all we can do. Long Tianqing nodded and did not say anything else. Although her array formation attainments were very high, this array formation could not be broken by those who did not split heaven and earth apart. It was not something that could be broken. Everyone quietly waited for Wu Axian, but their hearts were a bit uneasy. I have arrived. Why aren't you all kneeling down and worshipping me? The people in the array waited for a long time before Wu Axian's cold voice suddenly sounded. He's here. Everyone, including Long Tianqing and Jin Nie, felt immense pressure when they heard Wu Axian's voice. Clearly, Wu Xin's strength was above Long Tianqing's and Jin Nie's. Those who kneel and await their punishment don't die. Those who resist will have their souls destroyed. After Wu Axian said this, no one responded. His cold voice sounded again. You'd better keep those words to yourself. We're all Divine King. What do you have to show off? Jin Nie immediately responded to Wu Axian's words. He was one of the stronger ones on their side, so he naturally stood out at the crucial moment. You're no match for me at all. After sizing up Jin Nie for a moment, Wu Xin proudly said, a piece of trash like you is no different from a divine king in front of me. There's no difference. Let me out and we'll fight. Jin Nie roared. Want to come out and fight? You'd better enjoy the feast that I've prepared. Wu Axian smiled maliciously and ordered, throw all the things that I brought into the array. Yes. After Wu Axian gave the order, several invincible divine lords transported several bottles into the array one after another. After that, they exploded in the array and gradually formed a red and green poisonous fog. Very poisonous. Everyone, bring Night Sorrow and hide in the vast heaven pagoda. Although Long Tianqing did not recognize this poisonous fog, she sensed it with her divine soul power and determined that it was not simple. Ha! This is called myriad poison miasma. I obtained it in another world. Even a divine king or a king-grade divine artifact can't hold on for long. Prepare to die. Seeing Long Tianqing let everyone hide in the vast heaven pagoda, Wu Axian immediately sneered. What? What should we do? Although she looked down on Wu Axian, Yuntiani felt that what he said should not be false. She immediately did not know how to face it. I, the Divine King, have never faced this kind of poisonous fog before either. Don't know how to resist. Jin Nie said with some headache. Long Tianqing moved and said, I'll try to set up an array within an array to isolate the poisonous fog as much as possible. It's no use. The array that you set up can't block the myriad poison miasma at all. Prepare to welcome death. Wu Axian outside sneered repeatedly. Seeing that everyone did not have any temper, he continued, that girl that I took a fancy to just now, have you considered it now? Get lost. I won't bother with a beast like you. Lin Piaomiao replied without any trace of politeness. What should we do? Looking at Lin Piaomiao, Sikong Chuyu's expression was very solemn. What to do? Of course, break the turtle shell, then go out and behead that beast Wu Axian. Right at this time, Night Sorrow's voice suddenly sounded out in the array. Husband. You're awake. Hearing Night Sorrow's voice, Sikong Chuyu's eyes immediately lit up. In reality, not just her, the others in the array formation also all heaved a sigh in relief. Clearly, he already became everyone's backbone. Not considered awake. One of the divine souls is currently transcending his so-called calamity. Night Sorrow opened his mouth to explain. Turns out, what he was transcending was a newly generated divine sea. It did not have much effect on him. From the beginning until now, he had always been awake. After slowly standing up, Night Sorrow stared outside the array formation and said, "Wuaxian, you're finally here. I've already waited for you for a long time. You actually woke up." Seeing Night Sorrow stand up, Wuaxian was somewhat in disbelief at first. But following that, he said, "So what if I woke up? It's just suffering the torment of the myriad poison miasma together." "You're wrong. I didn't wake up, but I've been waiting for you to arrive all along." Night Sorrow held the Samsara heavenly halberd in his hand and replied to Wuaxian, preaching to everyone, "All enter the vast heaven pagoda. With me around, Wuaxian can't stir up any waves." "Good. Brother Yi. With your words, we can set our minds at ease." When Yuntiani heard Night Sorrow's words, she immediately entered inside the vast heaven pagoda with a smile. "This. All right then." Long Tianqing and Jin Ye hesitated for a moment and also followed into the spatial artifact. Although they were the Divine King, at present, they definitely could not help much. Looking at Night Sorrow, Wuaxian revealed a cold smile and said, "Didn't expect that you have two divine seas." "Good, very good. Just nice, can let this seat study it. Want to study my divine seas, you have to live on." Night Sorrow replied and used the Samsara heavenly halberd to bombard the wall above his head. Chapter 2699. Accept the baptism of the infinite poison miasma. We don't have such unique hobbies. The Samsara halberd hit the wall but did not have any effect. However, Night Sorrow did not panic. He thought for a while and put away the Samsara halberd. After activating the Tianqian secret skill to increase his strength, he blasted the hand of splitting heaven and earth toward the wall. With a boom, the enclosed space formed by the sky-shrouding formation shattered like an eggshell. "You're the one who split heaven and earth." Seeing Night Sorrow break the sky-shrouding formation in an instant, Wuaxian, who originally thought that victory was in his grasp, changed his expression immediately. He did not expect Night Sorrow to wake up so quickly, nor did he expect Night Sorrow to break the sky-shrouding formation in one move. "What does it have to do with you whether I split heaven and earth or not?" Wuaxian, as the saying goes, one who is unjust is doomed to destruction. "I have been looking forward to challenging you for a long time. Today, I will seek justice for Brother Mo Qianqian, Sir God Jin Yuan, and the others." Night Sorrow, who rushed out of the sky-shrouding formation with the clear sky pagoda and left the infinite poison miasma, floated in the air and stared at Wuaxian. At the same time, the two Divine King, Long Tianqing and Jin Ye, walked out of the clear sky pagoda one after another. On the other side, Wuaxian had a strange smile on his face. Behind him stood about 20 Sir Gods. Among these Sir Gods, 3 were invincible Sir Gods and the rest were ordinary Sir Gods. In comparison, their lineup was not as good as Night Sorrow's. However, Wuaxian smiled strangely and said, "Today, none of you will be able to leave. So what if you break the sky-shrouding formation? There are surprises waiting for you." After Wuaxian finished speaking, the entire governor's mansion suddenly changed its appearance and turned into the 9 Serenities hell. Countless ferocious ghosts with disheveled hair pounced on Night Sorrow and the others from all directions. What kind of means is this? Seeing that these ferocious ghosts were basically Sir Gods, Jin Ye, who spat out a mouthful of flames, asked in confusion. "It seems to be the 9 Serenities ferocious ghost formation. Wuaxian once said that there are 3 great arrays in the city. This should be the second one. Everyone, be careful." The one who answered Jin Ye was the knowledgeable Long Tianqing. After she finished speaking, she took out a kasaya that emitted a red glow from her spatial artifact. After she put it on, she silently chanted the name of Buddha. After Long Tianqing chanted the Buddhist mantra, countless golden swastikas appeared on her kasaya and shot towards the attacking phantoms. These swastikas were extremely large in number, like golden flowers scattered by a heavenly maiden. After shooting out, the first few malicious ghosts were quickly dealt with. However, as soon as the evil ghosts at the front were destroyed, the Divine Lord level evil ghosts at the back immediately swarmed out. After Long Tianqing's kasaya resisted for a while, the golden light on it gradually dimmed. I'm afraid this won't work. I won't be able to hold on for much longer. We still need to completely break the formation. Sensing that something was amiss, Long Tianqing said solemnly. In fact, she was originally one of the super geniuses of the dragons, but she had been too occupied with the matter of the Divine Lord Jin Yuan over the years and had not put all her energy into cultivation. Although she was the Divine King, her strength was relatively weak. Haha. The 9 Nether Malicious Ghost Formation has an endless number of malicious ghosts. Although they are basically all at the Divine Lord level, they have the advantage in numbers. Just wait to be slowly exhausted to death. Seeing Long Tianqing's performance, Wu Xin, who had already left the formation, laughed complacently. Wu Xin, I'm a shameless villain. I, Mo Yuqian, must have been blind to have spent so much resources to nurture you back then. Wu Xin's unbridled manner angered Mo Yuqian, who was in the clear sky pagoda, and he came out to curse loudly. Ha ha ha. Mo Yuqian, oh Mo Yuqian. You old fart, you can only blame yourself for being blind if you believe me. After Mo Yuqian walked out of the clear sky pagoda, Wu Xin immediately ridiculed him. Then, he said disdainfully, if you weren't blind, how could you have become like this? Wu Xin, a person like you will definitely end up in an incomparably miserable state. Mo Yuqian was furious, but he was not very good at scolding people. With that mouth of yours, it's better if you don't talk nonsense with me. If you have time, go deal with a few more malicious ghosts. Could it be that you only know how to fight with your mouth? Wu Xin did not give up. Mo Yuqian was so angry that the puppet god trembled, and he did not say anything for a while. At this time, Knight Sorrow walked to Mo Yuqian's side and comforted him, old brother, don't waste your breath on a person who is about to die. 30 years in the east, 30 years in the west. In the future, his soul will be destroyed, and you will become immortal. Old brother Knight Sorrow is right. Old brother is too stubborn. Mo Yuqian, who was still angry, calmed down a little. Looking at Wu Xin, Knight Sorrow, he suddenly said, thank you for preparing so much power of virtue for me. If the malicious ghosts are really as endless as you say, then I'm afraid that I will become the Divine King here. I'm afraid your brain is damaged, right? Don't think that just because you came from the lower realm, you are invincible in the God realm. Hearing Knight Sorrow's words, Wu Xin's mouth revealed a disdainful smile. You don't believe me? Then open your dog eyes wide. Knight Sorrow interrupted Long Tianqing and Jin Ye, who were bitterly resisting the endless malicious ghosts. He took out the heavenly samsara halberd and shot out the inferno demon that contained the power of virtue at the malicious ghosts. The sky was filled with golden power of virtue, and the flames immediately covered the entire formation. The malicious ghosts were not afraid of being burned by the flames, but the power of virtue was different. Burned by the power of virtue, most of the malicious ghosts were instantly converted into power of virtue and flew toward Knight Sorrow. Absorbing the power of virtue in front of Wu Xin, Knight Sorrow smiled and said, these ghosts, come as many as you can. In fact, Knight Sorrow hadn't been idle when the malicious ghosts had first appeared. He'd killed one of them and discovered that he could convert it into merit power. He'd immediately relaxed and felt that the array formation before him wasn't much at all. Bastard! Using the power of virtue to attack and then killing the malicious ghosts to absorb the power of virtue. The 9 Serenities malicious ghost formation does not work on him. Wu Xin, who was standing outside the formation, saw Night Sorrow's performance and was so angry that his body trembled. He snorted and ordered, "We can't just watch his strength grow infinitely. Close the 9 Serenities malicious ghost formation and activate the confinement space formation. Trap them all inside." "Yes, Lord Divine King." After Wuxin gave the order, the 3 invincible Sir Gods behind him immediately obeyed and activated the confinement space formation that had been set up long ago. The 9 Serenities malicious ghost formation was closed and the confinement space formation was activated. The scene before Night Sorrow and the others immediately changed. Chapter 2700. What array formation is this again? Seeing the fierce ghosts all disappear and the entire space become silent, deathly silent, Night Sorrow opened his mouth to ask. Long Tianqing glanced at Night Sorrow, brows furrowed slightly, and said, "The array formation in front of us, I can't make out its name either. But it's definitely not simple. And, as the finale array formation, it's definitely not simple." Night Sorrow replied, then opened up the sea serpent's eye and carefully observed the array formation in front of them. He was clear that among everyone present, apart from himself and Long Tianqing, the others should not have studied king rank array formations. Carefully observing for a while, Night Sorrow's expression suddenly became solemn and he said, "Not good. This area that we're in is shrinking non-stop. If my guess is right, it will crush everything in the array formation in the end. And let me see." Jin Ye, who originally did not have any thoughts, immediately observed seriously when he heard Night Sorrow's words. After looking for a while, he said with a deep look, "Indeed so. Although the space in front of us looks very big, enough to accommodate millions of people. Looking at the current speed, we won't need a year and will completely have no space to live. Although with their strength, as long as there was a bit of space, they could survive, this array formation was clearly able to completely compress space. Let's split up and take action, see if we can find a way to crack the array formation." Roughly figuring out this array formation's knack, Long Tianqing looked at Night Sorrow and Jin Ye. At the current rate of shrinking, they would completely lose the space to live after a year. But nobody could be sure whether the shrinking speed of space would have a change or not. Hence, the time left for them was not much. "Okay. Let me take a look, I can see through the loopholes of this array formation." Night Sorrow responded and transmitted his voice to everyone in the vast Heaven Pagoda. "The situation right now is somewhat dangerous. But everyone, don't worry, I'll think of a way to resolve it." Just as he was about to have his own territory in the divine realm and thoroughly settle down, such a crisis appeared in front of him again. He felt very sorry for his family. "Husband, we believe in you. Don't overthink it." Sikong Chuyu immediately responded gently. She knew what Night Sorrow was thinking. Then, Yang Lei said, 13, "Don't worry. If you can't find a way, take out your ruler artifact and destroy the space in front of you." "You don't say, this method might really work." Hearing Yang Lei's words, Night Sorrow smiled and nodded. If he couldn't find a way, breaking the formation by force was indeed the only choice. "Don't worry about us, everyone believes in you." Seeing that Night Sorrow was still thinking about his family in such a dangerous situation, Jin Yun, who had just blended in with him, responded with a smile. Originally, she had lost her entire family and felt very lonely. Now that she had completely integrated into the Night Moon family and found a sense of belonging, she felt that facing difficulties with everyone was much better than living alone. Without any suspense, other than the two of them, the other members of the Yi family all spoke up. They did not mind the difficulties in front of them. Furthermore, they had unlimited trust in Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow smiled when he saw everyone in his family act this way. Then, he looked for a way to break the formation with Long Tianqing and Jin Ye. After using the sea serpent's eye to observe the formation thoroughly, Night Sorrow did not find any clues. Thus, he looked at Long Tianqing and asked, "Senior Tianqing, did you find anything?" "I did find something, but it's not good news." Long Tianqing looked at Night Sorrow and sighed. "I found that this formation should be broken from the outside. This is also the ingenuity of this formation." "That's right. If the person who created this formation had left a way to break it, this formation would not have qualified to be a king-level formation. Furthermore, it was used as the final formation by Wuxin." Jin Ye nodded with a deep gaze. At this moment, he was rather depressed. After leaving the ancient Golden Crow realm, he realized that he had not been able to protect Night Sorrow at all. Fortunately, their relationship had become much closer, and he had completed the task that Kim Hong had given him. It seems that Ninth Senior Sister's prophecy has come true. We really can break the formation. Unable to find a way, Night Sorrow voiced his opinion. "If there's no other way, we can only use brute force." Long Tianqing agreed. Then, she continued, "However, a king-level formation is known for its suppression. It will definitely be very difficult to break it. With our strength, we might not be able to do it. Whether it's feasible or not, we have to try. It's better than waiting for death. Let me try first." Jin Ya was an impatient person. As soon as he finished speaking, he took out his copper cauldron and released flames that blasted at the wall in front of him. "Ha ha ha. You guys really want to die too slowly. You still want to add fuel to the fire." Seeing Jin Ya attack the wall with flames, Wuxin, who was drinking tea and watching from outside, put down his teacup and laughed wantonly. As soon as he finished speaking, the wall, which hadn't been damaged by Jin Ya's attack, suddenly shrank by a few dozen meters. After the wall shrank, the originally spacious space suddenly became extremely oppressive, making it difficult for everyone to breathe. So attacking the formation's wall will cause a backlash. I was too impatient. I've let everyone down. Jin Ya, who had just attacked the wall, saw the wall shrink, and his expression changed greatly as he apologized. "It's okay. If you didn't attack, we would have. It's all the same." Night Sorrow hurriedly comforted him. Although the wall shrank by a few dozen meters and everyone was in a bad mood, this wasn't Jin Ya's fault. "No. It's my fault." Jin Ya sighed and said, "I was too impatient and didn't think about the consequences." At that time, Night Sorrow should have used his Dominator-level divine artifact and used the strongest attack we could release. That way, even if the wall shrank, it would prove that it was impossible to break the formation with brute force. It wouldn't be like this. That's the logic, but it's already happened. There's no use in regretting it. Right now, we need to think of the most feasible solution. Being trapped in this confined space made him feel very anxious. However, Night Sorrow still maintained his calm at this moment and prepared to discuss the most feasible solution with everyone. "I think Jin Ya is right. Our only hope should be the Dominator-level divine artifact in your hands." Long Tianqing looked at Night Sorrow and then looked at the wall that was slowly shrinking. She said, "However, our safest choice is to let you cultivate for a period of time and strive to become a monarch god. I feel that you won't be able to open a way out with just the strength of a high god." Senior Tianqing's words are reasonable. However, there's another way. That is for you or Jin Ye to use Tianyun Bao and see if you can unleash an even stronger attack. Chapter 2701. According to Night Sorrow's judgment, Long Tianqing and Jin Ye, as the Divine King, were definitely stronger than him. If they could use the Tianyun Bao, they might be able to achieve unexpected results. This won't do. I can't accept the sovereign grade artifact. Jin Ye was very moved by Night Sorrow's words. He didn't think that Night Sorrow would trust him so much. However, he immediately refused. He was too embarrassed to accept it. Long Tianqing was the same. She said seriously, Night Sorrow, the sovereign grade artifact is very precious. You can't give it to anyone else at any time. Because that might be handing over your life. Aren't we handing our lives to each other right now? Right now, we're all bound together for good or ill. Yishang smiled and continued, at a time like this, no matter what, we can't just stand by and wait for death. If there's a way, we have to try it. You two don't have to be so polite. Jin Ya felt his body tremble. He said, Brother Night Sorrow, I, Jin Ya, will recognize you as a friend from now on. I'll treat you no differently than any other Golden Crow race member. A friend in need is a friend indeed. I, Night Sorrow, also recognize Brother Jin Ya as a good friend. Yishan smiled as he extended his fist and bumped it with Jin Ya's. Outside the formation, Wuxin sneered when he saw Night Sorrow and Jin Ya. Ha ha ha. You two are really interesting. How about this, you two become sworn brothers of different surnames. This way, you don't have to ask to be born in the same year, month, and day, but you can ask to die in the same year, month, and day. No, this kind of person doesn't understand feelings. I, Jin Ya, am willing to fight together with a heroic person like Brother Night Sorrow even if I die in battle. Being disdained by Wuxin, a trace of anger appeared between Jin Ya's brows. He said coldly, Brother Night Sorrow. Give me the bow. Okay. Take the bow. Night Sorrow didn't hesitate and handed the Tianyun bow over. Long Tianqing wanted to stop him, but she swallowed her words. She felt that there was no need to suspect that Jin Ya was up to no good under such circumstances. Tianyun bow. Good bow. Who would have thought that I, Jin Ya, would one day have the chance to use a sovereign artifact? Holding the Tianyun bow in his hand, Jin Ya felt a sense of heroism rise in his chest. He immediately prepared to shoot at the wall. He had witnessed the scene of Night Sorrow shooting the sun with his bow, so he knew that Tianyun bow could use it even without an arrow. At this moment, Night Sorrow handed over a Heaven Cloud arrow and said, Since you've used a sovereign grade god artifact, use your strongest attack. After Jin Ya received the Sky Cloud arrow, Night Sorrow sent a telepathic message to Jin Ya, infuse Tianyun Bao with your blood. You'll be able to activate it better. Blood infusion. You won't let it recognize you as its master, right? Jin Ya, who was holding the Tianyun Bao, looked at Night Sorrow and asked. That won't happen. Infusing your blood will only make Tianyun Bao stronger. It's not enough to make it recognize you as its master. I think that it won't recognize you as its master unless you have the strength of a sovereign grade god artifact. Night Sorrow told Jin Ya about infusing Tianyun Bao with his blood and told him that it wasn't a problem that he was worried about. All right. I understand. After hearing Night Sorrow's words, Jin Ya immediately cut his wrist and infused Tianyun Bao with his blood. In the process of absorbing the blood, the Heaven Cloud Bao gradually grew flesh and blood from the shape of a bone bao. Seeing flesh and blood appear on Tianyun Bao's body, Jin Ya immediately became excited and said, "The effect is very obvious." "It's not that obvious. When I infused my blood, the aura of the flesh and blood was stronger than it is now." Night Sorrow discovered that after Jin Ya infused his blood, Tianyun Bao's flesh and blood had the aura of a tiger and leopard. It didn't have dragon blood or dragon scales. After explaining, he said, "Brother Jin Ya, stop. I'll infuse my blood while you draw the bao." "All right. Brother Night Sorrow's talent is definitely better than mine. You do it." Every sovereign great god artifact was very mysterious. Jin Ya had heard of them before. He immediately stopped and gave the opportunity to Night Sorrow. After Night Sorrow cut his finger, he immediately infused Tianyun Bao with his blood. After Night Sorrow's blood infused Tianyun Bao's flesh and blood, it immediately became even stronger. Finally, a layer of dragon reverse scales grew on Tianyun Bao's surface that was even stronger than normal dragon scales. The effect is very good. Brother Jin Ye, you could try attacking the wall. Seeing Tianyun Bao's changes, Night Sorrow confirmed with satisfaction. Good. Watch me draw the bow and shoot. Upon hearing Night Sorrow's words, Jin Ye immediately swallowed a pill that could temporarily increase his strength. He also used a secret technique to raise his condition to its peak. Then, he knocked the Heaven Cloud arrow on Tianyun Bao and pulled the bowstring. Lord Divine King, the other party has a sovereign grade god artifact. The array won't be pierced through, right? After Jin Ye used the sovereign grade god artifact to shoot the arrow, an invincible divine lord behind Wuxin immediately asked worriedly. It shouldn't be. Wuxin replied uncertainly. Then, he confidently said, but even if they can charge out of the array, it doesn't matter. This divine king has even more terrifying trump cards waiting for them. Yes. Lord Divine King, your plans are flawless. We are in awe. One of the divine lords immediately flattered. I can't say that my plans are flawless, but there shouldn't be any suspense when dealing with them. After all, the divine world doesn't just rely on wits. It also relies on true strength. Wuxin smiled. Although Night Sorrow had a sovereign great god artifact and 2 divine kings, he didn't care at all. Clearly, he still had a trump card. While Wuxin and the others were talking, Jin Ye had already done his best to draw the bow and shot the Heaven Cloud arrow. The instant the Heaven Cloud arrow shot out, a violent explosion sounded in the void. As expected of a sovereign great god artifact. Its power is indeed shocking. Long Tianqing, who watched the Heaven Cloud arrow shoot into the wall, couldn't help but praise it. She secretly thought that if this kind of attack couldn't break through, then they probably wouldn't have a chance to break out of the array. Pfft. Jin Ye, who was originally very excited, suddenly suffered a strong backlash and fell to the ground. However, his eyes were fixed on the Heaven Cloud arrow that was shot out. In fact, he wasn't the only one. Night Sorrow and everyone in the Clear Sky Pagoda all locked their gazes on the Tianyun Bao that flew out. Everyone was hoping for a good outcome. After all, if nothing unexpected happened, this was their only chance. Boom! At this moment, under everyone's expectant gazes, the Heaven Cloud arrow suddenly bombarded the wall of the array. In the blink of an eye, the area where the wall had been struck exploded, and an endless amount of light blossomed from it. This light was even more intense than the golden crow illuminating the world. It made it impossible for people to see the situation clearly. Chapter 2702. Night Sorrow, what's going on? Did you manage to break it? Long Tianqing, who couldn't see what was going on due to the golden light, immediately asked worriedly when she saw Night Sorrow take a deep breath. I'm afraid we're in big trouble this time. Night Sorrow said solemnly. After opening the clam dragon's eye, he saw that the heavenly cloud arrow was embedded in the wall after hitting it, like a fishbone stuck in the throat. The toughness and strength of this formation's wall was unbelievable. Big trouble. Does this mean that even the sovereign grade divine artifact couldn't break the barrier in front of us? Long Tianqing's heart sank when she heard Night Sorrow's words, and she asked worriedly. That's right. The heavenly cloud arrow couldn't break the barrier in front of us. Yishan explained, if I'm not wrong, the wall will shrink even further this time, and the space left for us will definitely be even smaller. Sigh. How can this be? How can this be? Jin Ye, who had just shot the heavenly cloud arrow, had a look of disbelief. When he pulled the Tianyun Bao apart, he truly felt the pleasure of controlling everything. He didn't expect that he wouldn't succeed in breaking the formation. There's no point in sighing now. We should continue to think of a way. Time must be tight now, and we can't waste any time. Although they were in a difficult situation, Knight Sorrow's eyes didn't show any despair. Yes. Knight Sorrow is right. We must pull ourselves together. Let's think of a way together. As Long Tianqing said this, the wall in front of them rapidly shrank. After about 10 breaths, the wall had completely shrunk. This time, it shrank by 100 meters. After shrinking by more than 100 meters, the entire space had shrunk by about 1/5. Ha ha ha. A bunch of fools who overestimate their abilities. You must be tired of living. Seeing the wall shrink again, Wu Axian, who was sipping tea, immediately laughed wantonly. Do you think you can do whatever you want with a sovereign-grade divine artifact? You must be dreaming. Let's see how you're going to die. Wu Axian, don't be complacent. We'll find a way to get out. Everyone else was somewhat discouraged. Only Knight Sorrow calmly replied to Wu Axian. Ha! Yi Shang, are you still deceiving yourself at this point? Even Jin Ye's Dominator rank artifact couldn't do it. Do you really think that you, a high god, can really turn the tide? Stop dreaming. Today, all of you will die. Wu Axian's malicious laughter sounded extremely ear-piercing in the enclosed space. Don't worry, everyone. I will definitely help everyone overcome this crisis. After being provoked by Wu Axian, the anger in Knight Sorrow's heart completely flared up, and he comforted everyone. When Knight Sorrow said this, he used some of the Green Rock's soul-rending roar technique and mixed in some of the power of merit, causing everyone present to be enveloped by the power of merit and calm down. You're really good at appeasing people. However, the only thing that awaits you is death. Tianyun Bao will become Wuxin's personal artifact. After seeing Knight Sorrow's methods, Wu Axian, who was outside the array, indifferently provoked him. In his opinion, no matter what, Knight Sorrow and the others wouldn't be able to escape the array in front of them. The Dominator rank artifact Tianyun Bao would definitely become his. Based on your character, Wu Axian, you're not worthy of a Dominator rank artifact. You'd better wait patiently for me to kill you when I get out. Knight Sorrow didn't have the slightest bit of goodwill toward Wu Axian. After coldly replying, he no longer paid attention to the chattering Wu Axian. After all, they didn't have much time left. There was no room to waste. Sigh, what should we do? Yun Tianyi, who was inside the Clear Sky Pagoda, couldn't help but sigh when he saw the situation in front of him. Then, he asked the Divine King in his body, Divine Ancestor, what do you think we should do to overcome this crisis? Method? There should only be one method, and that is to rely on Knight Sorrow. In my opinion, if we want to break the array in front of us, not only do we need strength, but we also need luck. Among everyone present, only Knight Sorrow has this luck. This world can't trap him. After Yun Tianyi asked this question, the Divine Ancestor's answer immediately appeared in his mind. He immediately transmitted his voice to Knight Sorrow, Brother Yi. The Divine Ancestor said that the only way now is to rely on your strength and luck. Why don't you give it a try? That's the only way. However, I'm only a high god now. When I use Tianyun Bao, the power is much weaker than when I use Divine King Jin Ye. After Knight Sorrow replied to Yun Tianyi, he paused for a moment and looked at everyone. Don't despair, everyone. In the next 6 months, I will work hard to cultivate and think of a way to break through to the Monarch God rank. Then, I will try to break the array. If you have any elixirs that can help a high god break through to the Monarch God rank quickly, please don't be stingy. When he said this, Knight Sorrow thought of the Rainbow Profound Spirit Elixir. This elixir was originally used by the Divine King to break through to the next level. He had taken 6 of them, but he had only broken through to the next level at the high god rank. This was hard to understand, but it also made him even more certain that if he took other ordinary elixirs, the effect would be worse. Therefore, he didn't have much hope for what he had just said. After thinking for a moment, he added, "Everyone, don't study elixirs below the monarch god rank. They should be useless. Let me check the spatial artifact." Long Tianqing was the first to respond. She went into the spatial artifact to look for elixirs that were beneficial for cultivation. Jin Ya also started looking. He had just used the sovereign divine artifact Tianyun Bao, but he hadn't hit the erase barrier. This made him feel very uncomfortable. After searching for a while, he took out 3 dark red Bodhi seeds from the spatial artifact and said, "These are 3 king-level Bodhi seeds. They are very useful for cultivation. Back then, I used them to break through the Divine King's barrier. Brother Knight Sorrow, take them. Good stuff. These Bodhi seeds will be very useful." Knight Sorrow praised. He took the 3 Bodhi seeds and said, "Brother Jin Ya, this is an emergency. I won't stand on ceremony with you. Brother Knight Sorrow, don't stand on ceremony. Quickly enter the spatial artifact to cultivate." After confirming that the 3 Bodhi seeds were useful, Jin Ya was very happy. He felt that he had been a hindrance and had let everyone down. He felt very guilty. Seeing what Jin Ya was thinking, Knight Sorrow took the Bodhi seeds and comforted him. "Brother Jin Ya, don't think too much. The array in front of us isn't easy to deal with. Even if it were someone else, the result would be the same. Don't blame yourself. The more you blame yourself, the happier that bitch outside the array will be." Yes. Brother Yishang's words make sense. From now on, I, Jin Ya, will not have any negative emotions. Chapter 2703. Ha! Jin Ya, you are also a divine king. Why are you behaving like a child in front of a high god? With your personality, this divine king can deal with 10 of you. Seeing Jin Ya's performance, Wu Axayan, who was outside the array, mocked him disdainfully. This was not only because he was bored waiting outside, but also because he wanted to disturb the morale of Knight Sorrow's camp. When he spoke, he used some sound wave attacks to disturb the mind. "Bastard, what did you say? If you have the guts, fight me to the death." Hearing Wu Axayan's words, Jin Ya, who had calmed down, immediately became irritable. At this moment, Knight Sorrow immediately used his power of virtue to envelop him. "Don't mind Wu Axayan. He is very evil. Just now, my state of mind seemed to have been affected." After being enveloped by Knight Sorrow's power of virtue, Jin Ya, who quickly recovered, broke out in cold sweat. They were both divine king, but Wu Axayan's simple words caused him to fall into a frenzy. This was not simple. Wu Axayan's sound wave attack just now contained a trace of the power of darkness. If I'm not wrong, he is very likely related to evil creatures. Knight Sorrow judged and said to everyone, "When I am in seclusion, all of you enter the Clear Sky Pagoda. Don't give Wu Axayan any chance." "Okay. We will remember," Long Tianqing said solemnly. She took out 5 drops of emerald green liquid that contained violent energy from her spatial artifact. She explained, "Knight Sorrow. These 5 drops of liquid were left behind by my grandfather. They are called God Origin Liquid. Not only do they contain the Divine King's laws, they also contain a trace of the Sovereign's laws. When you cultivate, absorb them. Not only can you strengthen your body, but you can also use the Divine King's techniques at the Divine Monarch level. Absorbing the Sovereign's laws will allow you to better comprehend Tianyun Bao. Senior Dragon Ancestor left this for you. It is too precious. I cannot use it. The reason Night Sorrow had immediately taken Jin Ye's Bodhi seed was because the Bodhi seed could not be used up after it was used. As for the divine origin liquid that Long Tianqing took out, it needed to be completely absorbed for it to be effective. Considering how precious it was, Night Sorrow refused. Night Sorrow, those who do great things don't care about trifles. Look at the situation now, and you're still thinking about the importance of the item. Under such circumstances, isn't everyone's life more important? Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Long Tianqing said in a serious tone. Then, Jin Ye also tried to persuade him, Brother Night Sorrow, you are our only hope for survival. Stop procrastinating. Good. Then I won't hold back. But I don't think I'll use it all. After Night Sorrow muttered to himself for a while, he received the 5 drops of divine origin liquid and entered the clear sky pagoda. Because the time left in the outside world was definitely less than a year. It was impossible for him to break through to the Divine Lord realm in all aspects within a year. Only by cultivating a spatial artifact would he have a chance. Lord Night Sorrow, this is the Divine King's source that the Patriarch asked me to pass to you. You must accept it. Night Sorrow had just entered the clear sky pagoda when the Horn Clan's Jiao Hui handed a spatial artifact to Night Sorrow and opened his mouth to describe. The Horn Clan's Patriarch, Jiao Hui, did not appear. Good. I won't say much, but as long as I, Night Sorrow, am around, the Horn Clan will live very well. Night Sorrow received the spatial artifact that Jiao Hui handed over and said a sentence. He was preparing to open up a space suitable for his own cultivation inside the clear sky pagoda. But he did not expect that at this time, a divine lord in Shao Tianquan's clan also walked out and handed over a brocade pouch and said, inside are resources left behind by the sovereign. It's said to be used in times of crisis. I'm not sure what's inside. Lord Night Sorrow, check it out yourself. Since it's something left behind by the sect master, I won't stand on ceremony. Since he accepted everyone's things, Night Sorrow did not reject the Shao clan's divine lord's gift alone. Receiving the brocade pouch, Night Sorrow walked in front of his family and opened his mouth to say, time is of the essence. I'll enter seclusion until death. I won't come out of seclusion until I break through to Divine Lord. Everyone, take care. Don't be frightened by the predicament in front of you. When I come out of seclusion, everything will be solved with ease. Because time was of the essence, he did not prepare to speak much with the various wives. But after the elders and most of the wives finished giving instructions, Lin Piaomiao opened her mouth and said, Husband, my current bloodline is very special. Before you take action, I'll inject my blood into Tianyun Bao. At that time, it will definitely have pretty good effects. Good. But this needs to wait until I break through first. His wife's words gave Night Sorrow a further idea. But currently, the difficult problem in front of him was how to successfully advance to Divine Lord in a short time. He did not have time to think about other problems carefully. Good. Then I wish husband can quickly break through to Divine Lord. Lin Piaomiao looked at Night Sorrow and smiled. At this time, Jingyan transmitted her voice to Night Sorrow, talking about some insights on breaking through to Divine Lord. She broke through to Divine Lord recently. The relevant experience was still very important. Everyone taking care of each other like this, Night Sorrow will definitely break through to Divine Lord as soon as possible and shatter the barrier. After Night Sorrow finished communicating with Jing Yun, he gave everyone a final glance, then walked into the seclusion room and started cultivating. Ho ho! Breaking through to Divine Lord just like that. Do you think that cultivation is child's play? Just now, Night Sorrow did not hide the matter of cultivating to Divine Lord and shattering the barrier outside from Unheartless. Although not clear what happened to Night Sorrow in the vast Heaven Pagoda, Unheartless still said a sentence to his subordinates disdainfully. It naturally got his subordinates to pander. But the Knight's Sorrow in the middle of cultivating clearly did not think so. After obtaining many resources, he entered seclusion in the vast Heaven Pagoda space. He took the lead to absorb the divine origin liquid provided by Long Tianqing. Although these 5 drops of divine origin liquid looked to be only the size of water droplets, absorbing them still consumed a lot of time. Every drop would take about 5 years to refine. But after thoroughly absorbing them, Knight Sorrow's physical strength thoroughly broke through to the Divine Lord realm like the power of virtue and divine soul strength. After his physical strength increased, the only problem placed in front of Knight Sorrow was cultivation. To Knight Sorrow, the advancement of cultivation was the most difficult, because it could not be taken lightly. But what he walked was the path of validating his Tao through virtue. Relatively speaking, the difficulty of breaking through was not considered great. Especially with the 3 Bodhi seeds around, his epiphany speed was not considered slow. It was just that the average person needed thousands to tens of thousands of years to break through to Divine Lord, even 1 or 2 reincarnations time. In such a pressing time, it was still difficult for Knight Sorrow to want to break through. How is it? Not out yet. After Knight Sorrow entered seclusion for 70 years, Jean Nia, who entered the vast Heaven Pagoda from the outside world, asked anxiously. Chapter 2704. Half a month, even with the 100-fold augmentation, it was merely around 4 years. 4 years' time, to ordinary people, was not short. But to Divine World's cultivators, it was simply a matter of an instant. Hearing Jean Nie's question, Knight Sorrow's wife, Sikong Chuyu, replied, "Not out yet, but I feel that husband should succeed. He has never disappointed anyone in his life." Sigh. Let's hope so. If it really doesn't work, at most, everyone will die here together. It's not a big deal. Anyway, to cultivators, life and death are nothing. Jean Nia sighed, left the vast Heaven Pagoda, and observed the moving walls again. At this time, he shouted in surprise, "The moving speed has increased. 1 year, there's only 1 year's time in the vast Heaven Pagoda at most. We will be completely crushed." Tianyun Bao, did you bring Knight Sorrow in? Long Tianqing, who did not wish for everyone to wait for death in despair, opened her mouth to ask. She thought of an idea. That was, everyone could enter Tianyun Bao through communication. After all, Tianyun Bao was a sovereign-grade divine artifact. Regardless of material or strength, it was not what a king-grade array formation could crush. After Long Tianqing opened her mouth, Lin Piaomio replied, "Senior Tianqing, Tianyun Bao is with me." What do you mean? What I mean is, try to communicate with Tianyun Bao and see if there's a space that can accommodate everyone inside. As long as we can hide in Tianyun Bao, the predicament in front of us can be easily resolved. Long Tianqing cut the long story short. That's a good idea. But I feel that since husband didn't mention it, it shouldn't be feasible. Lin Piaomiao sighed and said, "No matter what, everyone has no other ideas now anyway. Rather than waiting for death, why not give it a try? I'll try first." After she finished speaking, she immediately tried to communicate with Tianyun Bao but discovered that there was no response at all. Subsequently, Long Tianqing, Jean Nia, and the rest also began to try one after another. But the results were still disappointing. In the end, even Xiao Tianchuan's clansmen tried to communicate with Tianyun Bao, but they didn't get any response. Everyone finally decided that they only had one hope, and that was Knight Sorrow. As for Knight Sorrow, he only needed a tiny bit of epiphany to completely break through to the Divine Lord realm. But he always felt that he was lacking something, so he never took that final step. With no other choice, Knight Sorrow took out the package left behind by Xiao Tianxian and found only a note inside. There were 4 words written on it: "Believe in yourself. Believe in myself." Looking at the pouch, Night Sorrow was speechless at first, but after thinking about it, he completely understood. In the vast Heaven Pagoda's cultivation, he somewhat relied on everyone's help too much. The effort he put in was indeed not enough. In an instant, Night Sorrow calmed himself down and immersed himself in the epiphany. While Night Sorrow was cultivating, Jinya discovered that the speed at which the barrier was shrinking was actually getting faster and faster. The moment he finished talking about this situation, the atmosphere inside the vast Heaven Pagoda immediately became solemn. A shadow welled up in everyone's hearts. Could it be that everyone is really going to die here? When the barrier shrank until one person could not stand, Jinya, who was the last to stay outside, was also forced into the vast Heaven Pagoda. Seeing Jinya's figure appear, Enchanting involuntarily sighed. Although she believed in Night Sorrow, according to the time inside the vast Heaven Pagoda, there was still less than 100 days' time at the very most before the space would thoroughly crush the vast Heaven Pagoda. At that time, probably only the sovereign divine artifact, Tianyun Bao, could remain inside the vast Heaven Pagoda. Don't say discouraging words. As long as there's still time, there's hope. Jinya and Yuntiani were both more pessimistic. Long Tianqing opened her mouth to berate. She did not want the atmosphere to be too solemn. She was afraid that this would affect the Night Sorrow in the middle of cultivation. Hearing Long Tianqing's words, everyone's faces more or less relaxed a little. But some people's smiles were uglier than crying. Although everyone was a cultivator, there were actually not many who could truly be indifferent to life and death. Jing Yun was considered to be one of the more resolute ones. But her face also revealed a trace of longing for this world. Because after she got married, she did not have much contact with Night Sorrow. Thinking of this, she muttered somewhat unwillingly, "If only I could have met my husband earlier. That way, I could still have left behind his bloodline." Fortunately, there are 3 young masters of our Night Moon dynasty who are training outside. Even if we unfortunately fall today, there will be a day when we rely on their talents to successfully take revenge. Datura sighed and was slightly glad. After all, her son, Yi Xiaoluo, was currently training outside. What are you all talking about? Nothing will happen, definitely nothing will happen. Believe in my husband, he will successfully complete the breakthrough. Even if he can't break through to Divine Lord, he will also appear and lead us to face the crisis. Seeing them so sorrowful, Sikong Chuyu immediately opened his mouth to persuade them. Her expression was not too good. It was not because she was facing a crisis, but because there were people in the family who did not believe in Night Sorrow. Hearing this, Datura explained, "It's not that I don't believe in my husband, but the predicament in front of us is really difficult to solve. No matter how difficult the predicament is, it can't stump my husband." Sikong Chuyu said one last sentence and did not speak anymore. She walked to where Night Sorrow was in seclusion and waited without saying a word. And at this time, outside the array was shrinking faster and faster. It had already shrunk to the extent that it could not be seen with the naked eye and started to crush the vast Heaven Pagoda. Wuxin shouted loudly, "Sovereign artifact Tianyun Bao. I'm going to have you. Don't worry, I will bring you to stand at the highest point of the divine realm. You are completely a pearl covered in dust in Night Sorrow's hands. Wuxin, you beast, don't be so proud. Night Sorrow will come out to take care of you very soon." The vast Heaven Pagoda had already started to be crushed. Little Kong was somewhat unable to hold on. The space was already starting to become unstable. Wuxin was shouting at this time. Yuntiani could not help but open her mouth to scold. "Ha ha ha. Scold all you want. This divine king will become the #1 divine king of the divine realm very soon. I won't get angry with an ant like you who is about to die." Wuxin, who completely occupied the upper hand, continued after responding to Yuntiani, "I'm very curious. Will you guys become meat patties or be crushed into meat powder? What will it be like if your divine soul is crushed? Bastard! Seeing Wuxin being so proud outside, Yuntiani was rather unhappy. But they were in a crisis. She simply did not have the words to retort. Haha. Not talking anymore. Hurry up and say something. Hurry up and scold. If you don't speak, you won't have the chance to speak in the future. Wuxin provoked proudly. Everyone in the vast heaven pagoda was unbearably angry. But at this moment, saying anything was futile. Not a single person spoke. Chapter 2705. The voice came from Night Sorrow. He walked out of the training room slowly and his aura was obviously different. Without a doubt, he had broken through to Monarch God in all aspects. It was just that his cultivation had broken through in an instant and he had yet to face the God-destroying tribulation. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Wu Axayan laughed coldly. Do you really think you're the savior of the world? Let me tell you, in front of me, Wu Axayan, you're just a dog being toyed with. You won't be able to survive today. Let's wait and see. The elemental energy around him was released uncontrollably. Night Sorrow looked like an immortal. Husband, you didn't disappoint us. At this moment, seeing Night Sorrow appear, Lin Piaomiao, who had been guarding Tian Yun Bao, handed him over. Seeing Tian Yun Bao, Night Sorrow was stunned. He realized that after using his blood to nourish Tian Yun Bao, he would grow the reverse scale of a dragon. But now, he was covered in thick phoenix flames. He immediately looked at Lin Piaomiao and asked, Sister Xian, are you okay? I'm fine. I just injected some blood into it. I was in despair just now so I injected more blood. The heaven cloud bao changed from a state of flesh and blood to its current state. Lin Piaomiao explained. She felt that everyone was going to die just now so she didn't hold back on her blood. She kept injecting blood into Tian Yun Bao, allowing him to enter a new state. How do you feel? Do you feel uncomfortable? Take these elixirs. Night Sorrow looked at Lin Piaomiao with concern. He was very worried about her safety. For people with special bloodlines, if they used too much blood in one go, it would bring about terrifying consequences. The amount of blood I used wasn't much. I don't feel uncomfortable at all. Seeing Night Sorrow's worried face, Lin Piaomiao smiled and explained. Actually, she wasn't lying. Although she kept injecting blood into Tian Yun Bao, she did it drop by drop. It was just that she did it for a long time. All right. Then I'll try Tian Yun Bao's fourth form. Night Sorrow said with a nod. Now that he had advanced to a god lord, his horizons had been broadened. He deduced that Tian Yun Bao's sovereign artifact had a very special setting. Only by activating the corresponding form would it erupt with the corresponding power. All this time, he hadn't activated Tian Yun Bao's true dominator mode, which was why he had been able to use it without suffering too much of a backlash. Of course, the fact that he didn't suffer any backlash also had something to do with Xiao Tianxian, Tian Yun Bao's true master. No matter what you try, you will die. Wuxin, who was outside the formation, smiled proudly when he saw the barrier formed by the formation crushing the vast sky pagoda bit by bit. Let's wait and see. The current situation was indeed not easy to deal with. However, Night Sorrow didn't reveal a trace of weakness between his brows. He ordered Little Kong, continue to shrink. It'll be fine as long as it can accommodate everyone. Under his order, the vast sky pagoda, which didn't dare to shrink casually, began to shrink rapidly. When the vast sky pagoda shrank to a certain extent, Night Sorrow casually set up an array outside the vast sky pagoda that wasn't restricted by space and then entered it. Night Sorrow had just walked out of the vast sky pagoda and entered this space. Before he could make a move, his energy reincarnation arrived directly. Knight Sorrow, who had the sovereign artifact Tianyun Bao in his hand, didn't shoot an arrow when fighting against the energy reincarnation. Instead, he relied on Tianyun Bao's toughness to ruthlessly slap the energy reincarnation to death. After relying on Tianyun Bao successfully transcending the tribulation, Knight Sorrow poured 5 drops of blood into the Bao. Then, he activated the Tristrimsa Heaven's combat mystic art that was upgraded during cultivation. Combining it with Xiao Tianchuan's heavenly mystic art, Knight Sorrow already upgraded the Tristrimsa Heaven's mystic art. After casting, it could increase his strength by 15 times. Break for me. Knight Sorrow, who thoroughly advanced to the Divine Lord realm and became a low-ranked Divine Lord, shouted loudly after. He took out 3 heavenly cloud arrows and shot them towards the first point in succession. Rumble. When the first arrow was shot, the heavenly cloud arrow only sunk into the wall. Her. You brood for so long, and the arrow you shot is only a so-so. Seeing that the effect of Knight Sorrow's first arrow was about the same as Jin Ye's, Wuxin immediately opened his mouth and said disdainfully. Break. At this time, the second arrow suddenly arrived. After the second arrow hit, the first arrow was immediately pushed in. The second arrow occupied the position of the first arrow. The effect is still okay. Knight Sorrow was still quite satisfied with the effect of the 2 arrows hitting the target. He knocked an arrow and shot the third arrow. Rumble. The third arrow hit the same position as the first and second arrows and pushed the second arrow in. However, the spatial barrier was not completely broken. Seeing this scene, Wuxin laughed loudly and said, "Ha ha ha. You racked your brains to obtain cultivation resources from others to cultivate to the Divine Lord realm. What's the use? Isn't it still the same? You can't break the array's defense. You don't have to worry about that." Knight Sorrow responded with cold words. He took out 3 heavenly cloud arrows again and shot them out one after another. The location where the arrows hit was still the same as before. Under the pressure of the heavenly cloud arrows behind, the heavenly cloud arrows in front completely sunk into the wall. 5 heavenly cloud arrows in a row still haven't broken through the defense. How thick is the array's defense array? After shooting 6 heavenly cloud arrows, Knight Sorrow discovered that the array's defense still hadn't completely broken through. He immediately opened the sea serpent's eye to observe. He had absorbed a large amount of resources to increase his strength. At this moment, the sea serpent's eye had also improved a lot. He looked at the location where the heavenly cloud arrows had entered and discovered that it was still not far from breaking through the array. Therefore, he immediately took out the last 3 heavenly cloud arrows and prepared to shoot at the same position again. Seeing Knight Sorrow continue to shoot arrows, Wuxin, who wanted to disturb his state, sneered and used a sound wave attack. In the blink of an eye, Yishang felt his ears ring when this sound wave hit the already small enclosed space. Do you deserve to be called the Divine King with an attack of this level? Knight Sorrow, who was hit, suffered some damage to his Divine Sea. However, it wasn't a big problem because he had 2 Divine Seas at this moment. In an instant, he recovered and immediately shot out the remaining heavenly cloud arrows. Hum. 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 Under the situation where the void was continuously vibrating. 3 heavenly cloud arrows nailed to the location where the other heavenly cloud arrows had hit. How is it? Has the array been broken? Yun Tianyi, who was in the clear sky pagoda, knew that Knight Sorrow had only used the Dominator Stone to strengthen 9 heavenly cloud arrows. When she saw the last arrow being shot, she immediately asked. Ha ha ha. Unfortunately, you didn't break through the defense. You shot 9 arrows at once. Prepare to receive the array's strongest backlash. Before Knight Sorrow could answer, Wuxin, who was outside the array, shouted. Chapter 2706. What? Even Knight's Sorrow didn't succeed in breaking the array. The 9 heavenly cloud arrows that Knight's Sorrow had shot out were extremely powerful. They could even kill an ordinary divine king. But they couldn't break the array's defense. Although everyone knew that Wu Axayan was trying to disturb their morale, they still couldn't remain calm. After all, everyone had high hopes for Knight's Sorrow. Does Knight's Sorrow have any other ideas? What do you need us to do? Long Tianqing asked immediately. Just as Wu Axayan said, the array's backlash would be very serious after shooting out 9 heavenly cloud arrows in a row. If they didn't think of a way to deal with it, everyone would be completely crushed. Even their divine souls would be crushed. The consequences were unimaginable. Brother Knight's Sorrow, let me blow up the remaining parts of the array. Mo Chanchan, who had been refined into a puppet by the sky-piercing bone pagoda's owner, stepped forward. If his puppet body exploded, the effect would be equivalent to many divine kings added together. It was extremely powerful and was used to break the array. Hearing this, Yi Shan hurriedly said, the array formation is actually about to be broken. I still have one last move to try. Brother, wait and see. After replying to Mo Chanchan, Knight's Sorrow said to Long Tianqing and everyone in the Clear Sky Pagoda, don't worry, everyone. If nothing unexpected happens, the array can be broken. Those who are strong, such as Senior Tianqing, Brother Jin Nye, prepare for battle. Knight's Sorrow, who was observing with the sea serpent's eye, was so confident because he discovered that the array's walls were about to be penetrated. However, he didn't have any more heavenly cloud arrows that had been strengthened by the sovereign stone. It was unrealistic to want to refine them in an instant. Thus, he took out the heavenly samsara halberd and prepared to use it as an arrow to break the array. Ha ha ha. You're really laughable. You're actually using a halberd as an arrow. Wu Axayan actually knew that the array was about to be broken. He was a little flustered, but he didn't forget to mock Knight's Sorrow. It doesn't matter what method I use. The most important thing is that I can break the formation. Knight's Sorrow swallowed 2 pills to recover his vitality and adjusted himself to his peak state. Then, he shot out the heavenly halberd of samsara like an arrow. Buzz! The samsara halberd that was shot out was obviously more powerful than the heavenly cloud arrow. The trajectories of the other heavenly cloud arrows could be seen, but the heavenly samsara halberd tore through the void completely. After it was shot, it almost disappeared without a trace. When it reappeared, it had already bombarded the 9th heavenly cloud arrow. Crack! After the samsara halberd hit the 9th sky cloud arrow, there was a slight cracking sound in the air. Hearing this faint cracking sound, Knight's Sorrow was overjoyed. He knew that the array was almost broken. Bastard! Just a divine lord, what right does he have to be so domineering? Hearing the walls of the array make a kachif sound, Wu Axayan's face was filled with tyranny as he smashed the teacup in his hand. He simply couldn't understand how a lower-level divine lord like Knight's Sorrow could be stronger than the middle-level divine king Jin Nye. This was something that had never happened in the god realm before. He was much stronger than him in the same batch. This made him very jealous. Just because I'm a merit divine lord. Wu Axayan was originally murmuring, but he did not expect that these words were heard by Knight's Sorrow. Knight's Sorrow replied with a sentence, then displayed the azure rock's soul-rending roar, thoroughly shattering the walls that already had cracks. With a bang, the array formation before their eyes was thoroughly broken. Seeing the light of day again. Everyone in the vast heaven pagoda could not help crying out loudly. They were equivalent to suppressing it for several decades in the vast heaven pagoda. Venting this sort of emotion through furious roars felt especially invigorating. Ha ha ha. Brother Knight's Sorrow is truly the god realm's #1 genius since ancient times. The array formation being broken, Jin Yao left the vast heaven pagoda right away and praised loudly. Long Tianqing, who similarly came out, smiled and did not speak. But her gaze when looking at Night Sorrow was full of praise. Toward this genius that she witnessed growing up with her own eyes, Long Tianqing's fondness was beyond words. Her. Everyone is overpraising. Since we've already broken all of the array formations. Next, prepare to start the battle. Night Sorrow breaking the array formation and being praised by a senior, it was impossible to not have any ripples in his heart. But he placed his attention on Wu Axian very quickly. Observing Wu Axian with the Mirage Dragon's eye at close range, Night Sorrow said in an icy tone, "So, you're related to otherworldly demons." You saw through it. Since you saw through it, you should be clear about what you're facing. Wu Axian, whose face was full of brutality, the aura on his body gradually became dark, erupting with an even more powerful aura. The divine domain that he released even made Jin Ye feel terrified. Such a powerful dark aura, this is an otherworldly demon. The Golden Crow clan that Jin Ye belonged to had been reclusive for many years. Seeing such a change happen to Wu Axian's body, he asked in puzzlement. He's not an otherworldly demon, but he's already fallen and demonized, betraying the god realm. Under Night Sorrow's Mirage Dragon's eye, Wu Axian could be said to have nowhere to hide. Being seen through by Night Sorrow, he said with a smile, "How's the god realm? So what if you're an otherworldly demon? As long as I kill you and obtain your Tianyun Bao and your providence, Wu Axian will definitely surpass Tianyun Bao and become the strongest person in the world. As for what race I'm from, it doesn't matter. Given your circumstances, you won't be able to become an ultimate expert." Hearing Wu Axian's words, Night Sorrow mocked him. Ultimate expert. The true ultimate experts of the god realm had all hidden themselves and gone to another world to fight. Wu Axian couldn't compare to that kind of circumstances and feelings. With your divine lord vision, you can't see how powerful I'll be in the future. The brutality on Wu Axian's body continued to grow stronger, and his aura became darker. At the same time, he released the 4 Divine King-level otherworldly demons hidden in his body. 4 middle-level Divine King-level otherworldly demons. Wu Axian, do you think you can fight us with such strength? Night Sorrow, who had already ascended to the Divine Lord level, glanced at the 4 otherworldly demons and confirmed that they were all middle-level Divine King-level otherworldly demons. He was confident that he, Long Tianqing, and Jin Ye could wipe out all these evil creatures. Of course the 4 of them won't do, but my methods are heaven-shaking. Today, you'll all die without a doubt. Wu Axian's white robe had been completely covered by the black aura. One of his eyes was red and the other was black. He looked extremely evil. As he spoke, he took out an umbrella-shaped black banner from his spatial artifact and threw it into the sky. The originally bright and sunny sky was instantly covered by a thick darkness. After the sky was completely covered by the darkness, a huge crescent-shaped crack suddenly appeared in the void. A black arm covered in green hair stretched out from the crack in the void. Chapter 2707. What's that? The huge hand that reached out from the crack gave off an evil vibe. Night Sorrow couldn't help but feel his heart palpitate when he saw it. He had a premonition that if he was caught by that hand, he would die without a doubt. This is the envoy of the most terrifying region in the divine realm other than the ethereal mountain and the dark forest. You can go with him in peace. Enter the 3rd forbidden area of the divine realm. When the black hand first appeared, it had the strength of a lower divine king. As it reached for Night Sorrow, it gradually increased its strength to the level of a sovereign. It was simply the aura of a half-step sovereign. Wu Axian felt that with this strength, it could easily crush Night Sorrow, a sovereign god. So you're not only related to the extraterrestrial demons, but also the evil creatures of the third forbidden area. Wu Axian, Wu Axian. Calling you a slave of 3 surnames is already a compliment. Trash like you must have grown up eating leftovers. You don't have any backbone. Hearing Wu Axian's words, Knight Sorrow, who was facing the huge hand and had goosebumps all over his body, reprimanded coldly. He roared, "Halberd, come." The halberd of Samsara, which hadn't been retrieved after breaking the formation, immediately shone with a golden light and flew over from the void. Like a shooting star streaking across the sky, it appeared in Knight Sorrow's hand. Grasping the heavenly Samsara halberd in his hand, Knight Sorrow immediately used it as an arrow as he moved. He used the heavenly cloud bow to shoot at the large black hand covered in green hair. You overestimate yourself. The huge hand didn't dodge Knight Sorrow's attack. Instead, it directly grabbed it. It actually forcibly stopped Tian Yunbao's halberd of Samsara and threw it toward the dark crack. Wu Axian laughed disdainfully when he saw the huge hand's strength. As for Long Tianqing and Jin Ye, they felt their scalps go numb when they saw this scene. This huge hand was too strong. It wasn't something that the two of them and Knight Sorrow could resist. What should we do? Jin Ye muttered unconsciously. After leaving the ancient Golden Crow realm and encountering a series of crises, his pride as the Divine King had completely shattered. I'm afraid we're no match for this monster. Although the evil creature in the fissure only extended one arm, Knight Sorrow observed it with the sea serpent's eye and discovered that its aura was infinitely close to that of a ruler. It wasn't something he could deal with. Seeing the heavenly Samsara halberd being tossed into the crack of darkness, the heavenly Samsara halberd trembled. Knight Sorrow immediately summoned, "Reincarnation Heavenly Halberd, come back." However, although the heavenly Samsara halberd struggled hard and slowed down its speed, it could not change its direction at all. Continue to fly inside. No. Knight Sorrow felt like his head was about to explode as he watched the heavenly Samsara halberd that had accompanied him all his life flying towards the dark crevice. He roared and used the dragon roaming steps to chase after the heavenly Samsara halberd. Hee. Ridiculous. Seeing Knight Sorrow chase after the heavenly Samsara halberd and try to use its own strength to pull it back, the owner of the black hand laughed in the fissure. Its laughter was extremely evil, causing Long Tianqing and Jin Ye to tremble. They simply could not muster up the courage to resist. Ruler. It's a ruler. Its outstretched arm is suppressed by the God world's laws, so it's only a half-step ruler. Hearing this voice, Knight Sorrow was completely certain that the other party was a ruler. Ha ha ha. Since you know it's a ruler, why are you still resisting? A God Lord ant. No matter how outstanding you are, you're still an ant in front of a ruler. Wu Axian, who had not attacked at all, kept laughing while hugging his chest and watching. He knew that although the heavenly Samsara halberd had been thrown out on the surface, the ruler in the fissure was actually trying to pull it back. So what if it's a ruler? No one can touch my divine weapon, Knight Sorrow. Hearing Wu Axian shout, Knight Sorrow, who had not been able to pull the heavenly Samsara halberd even after using all his strength, roared and used the limitless body tempering art, which he had not used in a long time, to convert some of his flesh and blood into strength. However, even so, Knight Sorrow could not pull the heavenly Samsara halberd back. Although the ruler in the fissure could not come over, the suction force it released was not something Knight Sorrow could resist. Ha ha ha. An ant trying to shake a tree. You're really laughable. So what if you're burning your flesh and blood? In front of an ultimate ruler, it's a futile effort. Wu Axian's sinister and awe-inspiring face was filled with ridicule. Ultimate. One day, you'll understand that you're not invincible among rulers. In the face of Wu Axian's mockery, the enraged Knight Sorrow roared, God World's origin energy, bloom. Following Knight Sorrow's roar, Wu Axian, the origin energy, which he had obtained by winning first place in the 7-sec tournament, gushed out from his energy center. With the support of the origin energy, Night Sorrow, who was originally at a disadvantage, was gradually covered by a layer of transparent energy. In the beginning, he still could not pull the heavenly samsara halberd back. However, after the origin energy appeared on Night Sorrow's body, the originally dark heaven and earth were instantly illuminated, and traces of light appeared. These origin energy were like sparks in a prairie, rising little by little. It completely purified the darkness in front of him. Some of them landed on the green-haired arm, causing the hand to unconsciously retreat a little. At the same time, the suction force binding the heavenly samsara halberd weakened a lot. "Come back!" Night Sorrow roared and pulled the heavenly samsara halberd back completely. "What's going on?" Wuaxian roared in disbelief when he saw Night Sorrow snatching the heavenly samsara halberd back from the hands of the ruler evil creature. "This is light defeating darkness in the end." Night Sorrow, who was holding the heavenly samsara halberd, saw that the light was getting brighter and brighter. After the big black hand was illuminated, it kept retreating toward the crack. He roared, "Wuaxian! Come, let me, Night Sorrow, see what other tricks you have up your sleeve. Ha! You alone are not enough to force me to use all my tricks." In the end, the big black hand retreated back into the crack. However, Wuaxian did not panic. His face was full of evil as he closed his black eyes. A ray of light shot out from his red eyes, turning the black flag floating in the sky completely red. After the black flag turned red, the sky, which was almost completely purified, was immediately covered by a red glow. Heaven and earth turned completely blood red. On the originally flat ground, blood water gradually rose. The blood water gradually rose, forming a terrifying sea of blood that drowned the entire high base city. What was even more terrifying than the black crack was that countless tentacles with terrifying auras stretched out from the sea of blood. Each tentacle reaped the lives of several innocent cultivators in an instant. Today, not only will you, Night Sorrow, die, but within hundreds of millions of miles, not even a blade of grass will grow. And after I, Wuaxian, absorb all of you as nourishment, I will completely become the first divine king of the god realm. Chapter 2708. The blood-red sky looked like it was about to swallow the world. The cultivators who were swallowed by the blood sea were completely swallowed up before they could even make a sound. Wuaxian, you've really committed many sins. Today, I, Jin Ye, will make you pay the price. Seeing this, Jin Ye took out his copper cauldron and shot out the unique flame of the golden crows. After the golden flame was shot out, it immediately burned toward Wuaxian's position. He was prepared to burn Wuaxian to death. At the very least, he wanted to resolve this mess. Wuaxian's move was simply inhumane. No one present could stand it. Your opponent is me. Jin Ye had just made his move when a middle-level God King-level extraterritorial demon immediately attacked him and stopped him. This otherworldly demon's strength was not that outstanding, but it was about the same as Jin Ye's. Soon, they were in a stalemate. Neither could do anything to the other. Bastard! I, Jin Ye, immediately left the ancient Golden Crow realm. How did I become a useless person? After leaving the ancient Golden Crow realm and arriving at the divine realm, Jin Ye had not been of much use. The otherworldly demon in front of him was so angry that his hands were shaking. After the stalemate, he immediately used a secret technique to fight for his life. As for the other two mid-level God King-level extraterrestrial demons, one of them attacked Long Tianqing and the other Yishang, preventing them from attacking Wuxin. Everyone has the right to kill otherworldly demons. Long Tianqing immediately took out her divine artifact to fight the otherworldly demon, which was a cold-blooded creature that only knew how to kill. Night Sorrow, who was blocked by the otherworldly demon, took out the Tianyun bow and shot out a heavenly cloud arrow. Although he had been told not to use the Tianyun bow easily, he did not want to waste any time. Buzz! A heavenly cloud arrow imbued with the power of virtue shot out like a rainbow. It instantly pierced through the clouds and then disappeared into the void. When it reappeared, it was already at the otherworldly demon's position. How can this be? The otherworldly demon that was blocking Night's Sorrow realized that it could not dodge this arrow at all, because it was already trapped in a sealed space. Boom! The heavenly cloud arrow that came out of the void seemed to have turned into a ball of fire. It immediately burned the middle-level Divine King extraterrestrial demon. After advancing to the Divine Lord realm, the sky cloud arrow that Night's Sorrow shot out possessed terrifying might. Furthermore, he used the virtuous dragon locking array. Wu Axian. Die! He shot an arrow at the otherworldly demon and used the merit dragon locking array. Night's Sorrow immediately used his blood to infuse the Tianyun bow. Under its brilliance, he took out 8 sky cloud arrows and shot them at Heartless. Wu Axian's methods were too bloody. This was something he could not tolerate. Buzz! 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 8 heavenly cloud arrows were shot out consecutively. Even though Night's Sorrow's body was astonishingly tough, he was still shaken and spat out a mouthful of blood. Night's Sorrow immediately swallowed several recovery pills. An unprecedented sense of danger rose in his heart. He had used the sovereign divine artifact too frequently and had suffered a severe backlash. The 8 sky cloud arrows that were shot out were all aimed at Wu Axian's position. They were majestic and had the power to shake the heavens and earth. However, what was surprising was that Wu Axian didn't move. He didn't even blink. What's going on? Does he have the confidence to take these arrows head-on? As the saying goes, there must be a demon behind this abnormality. Seeing that Wu Axian did not dodge, Night's Sorrow was immediately filled with doubts. Night's Sorrow, be careful. I have an extremely ominous feeling. Long Tianqing, who was fighting an otherworldly demon, suddenly transmitted a warning. A thick sense of danger flashed through her heart. It was almost like a sixth sense. This was her special ability. Senior Tianqing, I will be careful. Yi Shang glanced at Wu Axian's incomparably evil face and replied. At this moment, an extremely cold voice that could freeze the void came from the void. Be careful. It's useless. If you provoke this sovereign, the only thing that awaits you is the destruction of your divine soul. Sovereign. Another sovereign had been summoned. This Wu Axian. Hearing the sovereign's voice come from the void again, Jin Ye, who was fighting, was almost speechless. What kind of monsters were the divine realm? A random divine king could actually summon 2 dominator rank characters. Wasn't this a joke? Not good. The aura in the air was clearly stronger than that of the Black Hand from before. And, it really did descend into the divine realm. The aura of the sovereign in the void was extremely evil. It was clearly not one of the 7 sovereigns of the divine realm. Night's Sorrow guessed that it must be an evil sovereign of the 3rd forbidden area. Facing an opponent of this level, although he did not cower, he did not have the ability to fight at all. After all, sovereigns were on a completely different level. There had never been a legend of a divine king fighting a sovereign, let alone a divine lord fighting a sovereign. Although Night's Sorrow was an unparalleled super genius, it was still unrealistic for him to challenge a sovereign with a difference of 2 realms. Die, Ant. Some people aren't what you can touch. The sovereign hidden in the void berated coldly and smacked a palm toward Night's Sorrow. Being locked on by this palm, even with the help of the sea serpent's eye, Night's Sorrow could not observe any escape routes. Facing a sovereign, the strength of a divine lord was completely insufficient. Husband. Don't. Seeing Knight's sorrow locked on by the sovereign's attack, Lin Piaomiao immediately shouted. The supreme bloodline in her body completely erupted. However, in the vast heaven pagoda, although her supreme bloodline erupted, she merely advanced to the level of a divine lord. How could she be a match for a sovereign? Actually, even if her strength was enough, she could not make it in time to attack. How powerful was a sovereign's attack? Knight Sorrow did not have the chance to dodge even if he wanted to, let alone everyone in the vast heaven pagoda. Could it be that I, Knight Sorrow, am going to die here today? At this very moment, Knight Sorrow's emotions were very complicated. He completely had the feeling of experiencing life and death. That feeling of being completely enveloped by death was indeed very terrifying and made one shudder. You're not dead, but your divine spirit is destroyed. Accept your punishment. The sovereign's cold voice rang out again. Under Wuaxian's devastation, a sea of blood filled the sky. In a moment, many cultivators were pulled into the sea of blood. On Wuaxian's body, blood-colored imprints rose continuously. With each blood imprint he absorbed, his aura grew stronger. The aura on his body also became more and more bloody, and the difference between him and a divine world cultivator grew greater and greater. Wuaxian. He's not a divine world cultivator at all. Seeing the changes on Wuaxian's body under the pressure, Knight Sorrow roared in his heart. However, no matter how unwilling he was, there was nothing he could do in the face of a sovereign's attack. All he could do was wait silently. Chapter 2709. Wuaxian looked at Knight Sorrow with his red eyes, a mocking smile on his face. You can tell. I'm not a God Realm cultivator. That's right, I'm not. I'm the third Forbidden Zone Son of Darkness. The Dark and the Void is my father. Today, we father and son will give the God Realm a big surprise. Wuaxian's cold voice caused Knight Sorrow to shiver. If one of the dark sovereigns of the third Forbidden Zone attacked, the God Realm would be plunged into misery and suffering. Only a sovereign could stop them. His opponent's attack didn't descend for a long time, as though he were toying with him. The feeling of being shrouded in death was extremely unbearable. Dark Moon, you're able to remain indifferent in the face of an evil existence in the Forbidden Zone. Is it because you're afraid, or is it because you have something to do with him? At this moment, a cold, angry roar came from the void. Yishan immediately felt his heart relax when he heard this voice. The threat of death that had enveloped him had actually been shattered by this voice. I'm no match for him. Upon hearing this, the Dark Moon Sovereign, who had been hiding in the void but hadn't attacked, awkwardly replied. Trash. If the God Realm was filled with trash like you, it would have been destroyed long ago. The angry voice rang out once more. The normally insufferably arrogant Dark Moon Sovereign didn't have the slightest bit of temper. He replied, Sovereignty and I'll attack right away. The Dark Moon Ruler, who was hiding in the void, replied without any temper and then struck out at the Dark Ruler. Dark Moon, what's the point of that attack of yours? At this moment, a woman's voice came from the void. Then, a wave of zither music rang out, and countless attacks were launched toward the Dark Dominator, who was hiding in the void. 3 sovereigns at once. You really think highly of this sovereign? The Dark Sovereign's voice was still cold, but he was no longer as calm as before. Think highly of you. You think too much. The way we see it, the Dark Moon might betray the God Realm. That's why the two of them came together. Sovereign Tianya's voice rang out once more. A man in a pagoda appeared before everyone's eyes. I've even brought the Tower of Babel. Upon seeing that Hegemon Tianai had brought a sky-split tower with him, Dark Moon, who had attacked the Hegemon of Darkness, immediately explained, Hegemon Tianai. Although my Dark Moon doesn't do much, we will never betray the God Realm. You're worrying too much. Let's kill the darkness overlord in front of us together. If you didn't betray the god realm, then why have you been nurturing the son of the dark sovereign? To let him grow to such an extent. Let's end this karma today. As Hegemon Tianai was attacking the Hegemon of Darkness, Hegemon Void Note was attacking. He directly pointed a finger at Wu Axian and mercilessly obliterated him. Wu Axian had been planning to break through to Half-Step Ruler today, but all he had done was summon all sorts of terrifying creatures. Before he could even make a move, he had been obliterated in a single blow. Tianai, you bullied the weak and killed my son. Damn it. I will never let you off. The Dark Dominator from the Third Forbidden Area was enraged by Wu Axian's death. You'd better think about how to avoid being completely obliterated first. Attack! Hegemon Tianai barked coldly, then spoke to the artifact spirit of the Skysplit Tower. Okay. The Skysplit Tower's artifact spirit replied, then controlled the tower to crush the darkness overlord. At the same time, the Light Dominator, who had been playing her zither in the void, revealed herself. Her body was surrounded by a dense divine domain that resembled starlight. The rain of swords she played continuously attacked the darkness overlord. The Dark Moon Overlord, who had been angrily rebuked by Hegemon Tianai, attacked while also explaining, Hegemon Tianai, I was blind in this matter and mistook you for a trusted subordinate. Today, I will definitely kill this alien to atone for my sins. Humph. You're on your own now. Hegemon Tianai snorted coldly, then attacked the darkness overlord. As the strongest overlord in the god realm, he was incomparably powerful. The moment he attacked, he seemed absolutely invincible. Not to mention the others who were dumbfounded, even Yi Shang was shocked. After he attacked, the void was soon filled with screams and angry rebukes. The darkness overlord was unconvinced. The three of you ganged up on me and attacked half of my body. Is this how the overlords of the god realm act? As it turned out, the darkness overlord of the Third Forbidden Area had only crossed half of his body. Aliens cause chaos, and everyone in the god realm has the right to punish them. Night Sorrow, I've already suppressed him. Do you dare attack? Hegemon Tianai said domineeringly. Ha! The zither-playing Hegemon Tianai didn't say anything, but she smiled at Night Sorrow. She wanted to see if he had the courage to attack Overlord. Why wouldn't I dare? Night Sorrow, who had been suppressed by the Overlord's aura, immediately stood up, raised the Tianyun bow, and fired a sky cloud arrow at the darkness overlord. This arrow was extremely powerful even against the Divine King, but it was nothing against Overlord. However, at this moment, the darkness overlord's half of his body had been completely suppressed. He could only watch as the hand he had spoken of struck him. You've gone too far. The next time I descend, I'll definitely plunge the god realm into misery and suffering. The darkness overlord, who had been struck by Night Sorrow's arrow, felt greatly humiliated. He roared in disbelief, then completely abandoned the overlord who had crossed over and sealed off space. This was a heroic act, but he had lost half of his body. If he wanted to fully recover, he would need at least 3,000 cycles. Night Sorrow. Very good. You broke through to the Divine Lord level so quickly. Once you're done with your business, come to Tianai Island as a guest. Hegemon Tianai said to Night Sorrow after using the Skysplit Tower to suppress half of the Darkness Overlord's body. Yes. Night Sorrow will meet you as soon as possible. Night Sorrow looked at the figure in the air. Hegemon Tianai's invincible aura made him sigh with emotion. If we didn't want you to break through in despair, we would have attacked long ago. At this moment, Hegemon Clear Sound, who was no longer strumming her zither, smiled at Yi Shan. Without waiting for Night Sorrow to reply, she continued, I look forward to you breaking through to the Divine King level as soon as possible. Night Sorrow will work hard. Night Sorrow immediately replied with a smile when he heard Hegemontia's words. He naturally looked forward to breaking through to the Divine King level even more. I'm leaving. After speaking, Hegemontia quickly vanished into thin air. Hegemontia, who still hadn't left, looked at Hegemon Dark Moon and said, "Your negligence has caused so much damage to the God Realm and Night Sorrow. How should we resolve this matter?" Compensation. Dark Moon is willing to do everything in its power to rebuild North Sea City and build a new home for the survivors. Chapter 27:10. In truth, as a ruler, how could he not know Wuxin's true identity? The reason he was nurturing Wuxin was because he had benefited greatly from it. Seeing Ruler Darkmoon's reaction, Ruler Tianai said, "Night Sorrow, if you need anything, just tell me." Night Sorrow immediately understood that he had to demand an exorbitant price today. Otherwise, he would be too petty. After thinking for a moment, Night Sorrow said, "Night Sorrow's Tianyun Bao is a sovereign artifact, but he doesn't have a sovereign arrow to complement it." Ruler Dark Moon. There's a way. I have the materials. I'll find a way to forge a sovereign arrow for you. Before Night Sorrow could finish, Ruler Dark Moon had already answered. Hearing Dark Moon's words, Night Sorrow immediately understood that he had definitely gained quite a bit from the Ruler of Darkness. He continued, "In addition, Night Sorrow wishes to cultivate to the Divine King level as soon as possible, but he doesn't have any resources on him." Hearing this, Ruler Darkmoon's mouth twitched. He said with a pained expression, "Fine, fine. I'll give you a king-class divine bloodline. It'll be enough for you to cultivate all the way to the ruler level." At the same time, Dark Moon looked coldly at Night Sorrow, clearly warning him. Night Sorrow hadn't wanted to say anything else, but when he saw Ruler Darkmoon's threatening expression, he was immediately enraged. In a few days, Night Sorrow will establish his immortal domain, but without a single soldier, it'll be difficult for him to establish himself. Ruler Dark Moon, can you provide some assistance? Humph. Dark Moon said coldly, "Even if I gave it to you, you wouldn't dare accept it." Night Sorrow believes in Ruler Darkmoon's magnanimity. "You won't do anything to me over such a small matter." Night Sorrow said indifferently. "I also believe that Ruler Dark Moon has the magnanimity to take care of his juniors. He won't watch as Night Sorrow builds everything up from scratch." Seeing that Dark Moon didn't want to give away the powerful Dark Moon army, he immediately spoke up. As soon as Hegemontia spoke out, Dark Moon realized that today was not the day to be stingy. After pondering for a moment, he said, "I'll give you 10,000 exalted deities. If you nurture it carefully, it will take shape. However, with your current financial resources, I'm afraid it will be difficult to support so many people." In reply to Ruler of the Dark Moon, Night Sorrow is indeed unable to support so many cultivators. Night Sorrow said modestly before continuing, "Therefore, I hope that you can help me to the end, Ruler of the Dark Moon." What? You mean to say that if I give you 10,000 exalted gods, I will also give you resources to nurture them? Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Dark Moon immediately exploded. I think, however, at this moment, Hegemontia spoke out once more. Upon hearing Hegemontia speak, Dark Moon sighed and said, "Forget it, forget it. I will take full responsibility for this matter. As for the rest, don't mention it again." Good. That's enough. Night Sorrow smiled in response, then looked at Hegemontia and said, "Thank you for taking care of me, Hegemon." You're welcome. You and I both came from the lower realms, and our starting points were very low. Witnessing your rise is like witnessing myself in the past. After saying this to Night Sorrow, Hegemontia disappeared into the void. Hegemon of the Dark Moon brought Night Sorrow to the Dark Moon Hegemon Manor and tried his best to create a Hegemon grade arrow for him. To him, this was a huge loss. After all, not everyone had a hegemon-grade artifact. Even a hegemon wouldn't have an easy time accumulating hegemon-grade materials. In addition, he gave Knight Sorrow a king-grade divine vein that he hadn't absorbed yet. As for the promised 10,000 exalted gods, he didn't immediately give them out. He had agreed that once Knight Sorrow had his own territory, he would give them out. Knight Sorrow felt that this was acceptable. Without saying anything else, he left the Dark Moon Hegemon's manor under the murderous gaze of the Dark Moon Hegemon. Lord Hegemon, are we just going to watch this kid take away so many resources? Do you need this old servant to lead some people to exterminate him? As soon as Knight Sorrow left, the steward of the Dark Moon Hegemon manor spoke up coldly. Brainless. If I could casually attack him, I would have slapped him to death long ago. He has Hegemon Tni and Hegemon Voiceless protecting him. We can't deal with him head-on. Hegemon of the Dark Moon Hegemon had used up all the Hegemon-grade materials he had accumulated over the years. After saying this, he continued, send someone to Hegemon Tni's manor and say that I had a good chat with Knight Sorrow. I'm going to give him a piece of land as well. The Dark Moon Hegemon's territory is connected to Hegemon Tni's territory. If I give him a piece of land, Hegemon Tni will give him a piece of land as well. After all, it's easier to manage them together. Hegemon of the Dark Moon Hegemon drank a cup of wine and said, as long as his immortal domain isn't surrounded by Hegemon Tni's territory, we'll have a chance to deal with him. Yes. Lord Hegemon. The steward replied and said, this old servant will choose a piece of land for him. Although the Dark Moon Hegemon's territory can't compare to Hegemon Tni's territory, it's still vast. You don't have to be stingy. The more you give him, the more he'll get back in the future. After all, the territory of the deity realm isn't something that just anyone can defend. Hegemon of the Dark Moon Hegemon, who was about to be crushed, sneered. In truth, he was an extremely greedy person. Otherwise, he wouldn't have turned a blind eye to Wuxin. He was prepared to give Knight Sorrow a piece of land and then have his subordinate, the Divine King, take it back. The deity realm's divine lords and divine kings fought against each other. This was the rule. Even Hegemon Tni had no reason to help Knight Sorrow in this regard. Yes. Lord Hegemon, this old servant understands. This old servant will personally take back the land that I've given away. However, this old servant is a divine king. If I attack a divine lord, won't Hegemon Tni be displeased? The steward asked with a bow. Displeased? Displeased my ass. Knight Sorrow might only be a divine lord, but his true combat strength isn't any weaker than yours. In battle, you need to rely on the might of the Dark Moon army. Personal strength is not advisable. Understood. Hegemon of the Dark Moon Hegemon glanced at the steward. Yes. This old servant understands. The steward replied and said, when the time comes, this old servant will send out 10 times the number of troops after the deity realm is established. 10 times. Send out 30 times the number and properly torture him. The Dark Moon army coldly snorted. Good. This old servant will definitely make him feel despair. The steward's face revealed an evil smile. Knight Sorrow, who didn't know that the deity realm was being targeted before it was even established, left the Dark Moon mansion under Long Tianqing's lead. They went to the All-Heaven ruler's territory to find Ling Tian. Knight Sorrow didn't want to make Wu Lingfei wait for him because of anything else. He felt that doing that would be too inhumane. Night Moon Dynasty, especially Knight Sorrow's wives, were very supportive of this matter. Chapter 27:11. On the way to All Heaven's territory, Knight Sorrow couldn't help but recall everything that had happened after he met Wu Lingfei. If she hadn't stood up for him, he probably wouldn't have been able to overcome many difficulties. This was an unforgettable debt of gratitude. When he thought of how Ling Yun had crippled Yi Ling Huan, Lin Piaomiao, and Yi Xiaoluo, Knight Sorrow's eyes gradually turned cold. To him, this was the greatest humiliation of his cultivation life. Now, he was going to kill Ling Yun with his own hands and seek justice for Wu Lingfei and her family members who had their dantians destroyed. Knight Sorrow. In all heaven's territory, unless it's absolutely necessary, don't kill anyone. Long Tianqing, who was flying beside Knight Sorrow, could sense Knight Sorrow's killing intent and couldn't help but advise him. The All-Heaven ruler had a very bad reputation. He was even said to be the most despicable ruler in the entire God realm. His character was even worse than the Dark Moon rulers. If he killed his subordinates in his territory, it would be very difficult to resolve the matter. Senior Tianqing, Knight Sorrow isn't someone with a strong killing intent right now, but this Ling Yun must be killed. Otherwise, my Dao heart will become unstable. Hearing Long Tianqing's words, Yi Shang immediately replied with a frown. Long Tianqing saw Knight Sorrow's expression and continued, I understand how you feel, but we have to think of a way to escape. Although Ruler Tianai and Ruler Qingyin take good care of you, they probably won't take action for you because of this matter. What if the All-Heaven ruler is dissatisfied and wants to kill you? How will we deal with that? Long Tianqing sighed and continued, sigh. Although Ruler Tianai said that the rulers will retaliate if they attack you, if the All-Heaven ruler doesn't do it himself, how will you deal with him if he sends out all his subordinates, the Divine King? Let's take it one step at a time. No matter what, I must kill Ling Yun. Knight Sorrow said resolutely. At this time, in the Clear Sky Pagoda, Knight Sorrow's wives spoke one after another. Other than Jing Yun, all of them had experienced the events of that day, and all of them supported Knight Sorrow to eliminate Ling Yun. It was obvious that Ling Yun wasn't just Knight Sorrow's inner demon. He was also a target that the entire Night Moon dynasty had to kill. Otherwise, it would be difficult to wash away the humiliation of that day. Since everyone has already made up their minds, I won't say anything more. However, this is the territory of All-Heaven, so it's not convenient for me to make a move. I hope you understand. Out of consideration for her family, she really couldn't make a move in All-Heaven's territory. I don't want to bring a strong enemy to the dragons. Senior Tianqing, you're too polite. In fact, no one wants to provoke a mad dog. Knight Sorrow nodded in agreement. But I have to kill Ling Yun. No one can stop me. This might be the reason why you have the disposition of a ruler, but I don't. Looking at the stubborn Knight Sorrow, Long Tianqing smiled. She was clear that if one wanted to achieve greater heights, one's will must be incomparably firm. Knight Sorrow happened to have that kind of character. Senior Tianqing, you flatter me. Actually, the so-called disposition of a ruler is all fake. I feel that there isn't a ruler who purely relies on talent to advance to a ruler. In the process of flying, Knight Sorrow looked at the famous mountains below his feet. This was the first time he felt confident in his heart after coming to the Divine Realm. He said to the clansmen in the Clear Heaven Pagoda, if there aren't any major changes, my Night Moon dynasty will establish a foothold in the Divine Realm. All this time, it's Knight Sorrow's fault for making everyone follow me everywhere in the Clear Heaven Pagoda. You brat, you're so outstanding. We see it in our eyes and feel gratified in our hearts. Don't think about anything, don't say anything, just follow your heart and move forward. You're the greatest pride of the Night Moon dynasty. We, your family, don't want to be a burden that binds you. Yi Linghuan said immediately. Knight Sorrow's rise in the Divine Realm was so fast. As his grandfather, he was very gratified. It's a pity that we're in a hurry now. Otherwise, we can have a good drink. Knight Sorrow's father, Yi Wuyo, said with a smile, looking cultured and refined. Haha. Then you guys drink a cup. It won't affect anything. At this time, Long Tianqing took out a king-grade flying divine artifact and invited Yi Linghuan and Yi Weio out. The three of them sat in the cabin, chatting and drinking. This was a leisure that Night Sorrow had not experienced for a long time. He enjoyed it very much. Long Tianqing and Jin Ya entered the Clear Heaven Pagoda to recover from the injuries they suffered during the battle. Although the two of them were not seriously injured, they still needed time to heal. The most difficult thing to do is to not forget your roots. Now, you can be said to have your own reputation in the divine realm, but you didn't forget your Aunt Faye. This makes me very gratified. To me, you're invincible under the heavens, not as benevolent as ruling the world. Yi Weio raised his wine cup and said a sentence. Then, he looked at Yi Linghuan and said, "Father suffered a few days ago. This unfilial child salutes you." Ha! The pain of the physical body the last time is nothing at all. But the pain in my heart must be returned with an eye for an eye. Let's toast. Yi Linghuan said a sentence with a smile, raised his wine cup, and downed it. Grandfather, rest assured. Grandson will completely seek justice for everyone. Those who humiliate others will be humiliated by others. Ling Yun can't escape this calamity. Night Sorrow, who similarly raised his wine cup, said a sentence and prepared to toast. Chatting and drinking with his grandfather and father was something that he had not experienced for a long time. The atmosphere made him enjoy it very much. Boom! But just as Night Sorrow placed the wine cup by his lips and prepared to drink it, Long Tianqing's king-grade flying divine artifact suddenly suffered an attack. The entire divine artifact shook. Night Sorrow, who was caught off guard, was splashed with wine. Who is it? Night Sorrow, who was originally enjoying the atmosphere, immediately stood up angrily. The three of you can scram, but you have to leave the king-grade divine artifact behind. Night Sorrow walked out of the inner cabin of the flying divine artifact. When he stood outside, he saw 13 Sir Gods in front of him. The 13 Sir Gods had a very strong murderous aura. Clearly, they were not kind people. One of the Sir Gods, who had a scar face, immediately shouted when he saw Night Sorrow, Yi Linghuan, and Yi Weio walk out. Clearly, they knew that Night Sorrow and the other two were the only ones in the king-grade divine artifact. Hence, they had wantonly intercepted them. How did they do it? I didn't sense anyone using the power of God's soul. Thinking of this, Night Sorrow was suddenly curious about the 13 fierce-looking people in front of him. He wanted to know how they could detect the internal situation of the flying divine artifact without using their God's soul. He said, "Tell me, how did you determine that there are only the three of us in the flying divine artifact? As long as you say that you offended me, I will let bygones be bygones. Otherwise, I'm afraid you will suffer." Ha ha ha. Brothers, I didn't hear wrongly, right? Hearing Night Sorrow's words, the 13 of them all laughed. Chapter 27:12. Ha ha ha. The ignorant are truly fearless. The leading Sir God laughed coldly. The smell of blood on his body was thicker than the others. Clearly, he was an existence that had struggled in the sea of blood. The other Sir Gods also started laughing maniacally. A middle-level Sir God with a protruding mouth and monkey cheek said, "Not to mention a low-level Sir God like you, even a low-level divine king would have to pay a price to leave after entering the array of the 13 eagles of Yunling." Array. Hearing this, Night Sorrow opened the eye of the sea serpent and observed his surroundings. However, he did not find any traces of an array nearby. He could not help but be puzzled. Ha! Another ignorant hothead. Seeing that Night Sorrow did not find any clues, the scarred Sir God immediately mocked him. He was ranked 4th among the 13 and was known as the 4th Master of Yunling. This seems to be an array formed naturally by heaven and earth. Its power is uncertain. At this moment, Long Tianqing, who was in the clear sky pagoda, reminded him. Relatively speaking, she was more knowledgeable and had dabbled in all aspects. I see. This place should be called Yunling. Hearing this, Knight Sorrow could not help but look further away. He discovered that the surrounding 100,000 miles of mountains pierced the clouds. The terrain had indeed formed an array. An array formed by the momentum of heaven and earth is indeed mysterious. However, how do they control it? Knight Sorrow, who was observing, could not help but be puzzled. At the same time, he was also guessing the effect of the array in front of him. At this moment, the second sister of the 13 Eagles of Yunling, who was also the only female present, smiled and said, "You men really love to show off. Every time a fat sheep comes, you have to let it observe the array. In my opinion, we should just kill it directly. A king-level ascension artifact is extraordinarily precious. Second sister, don't forget that person's instructions." The eldest brother of the 13 Eagles of Yunling glanced at the woman beside him and said, "Now that we are sure that they do not have the foresight, let's do it. As the saying goes, even a lion uses its full strength to catch a rabbit. Let's attack together and kill the three in front of us." Ha ha ha. Where did these three come from? Can anyone below the Sir God be considered human? The fourth brother of the 13 Cloud Ridge Eagles laughed heartily and took out a saber from his spatial magic tool. He said, "I'll kill that divine monarch. Don't snatch it from me." So what you're saying is, with so many of us here, we'll kill 2 ants. Hearing fourth brother Yunling's words, the others were immediately dissatisfied. The woman who was ranked second said disdainfully, "What are you thinking, Scarface? Ha ha ha. Then let's rely on our own abilities and strike first to gain the advantage." The scar-faced Yunling fourth laughed and decided to make his move. "Father, grandfather, you guys enter the vast heaven pagoda. I'll deal with these people." Although Knight Sorrow was not afraid of the sudden appearance of so many divine lords, he did not wish for his father and grandfather to be accidentally injured. At this moment, Jean Ye said, "Brother Knight Sorrow, let me fight. There are more than 10 divine lords and they are in the enemy's array formation. They might have some special means. Brother Jean Ye, you'd better watch the battle with peace of mind in the vast heaven pagoda. I want to test my true strength. In the future, unless it's a last resort situation, I won't use Tianyun Bao again." After replying to Jean Ye, Knight Sorrow unleashed a hand of cleaving heaven and earth at Cloud Ridge fourth brother. Now that he advanced to the Divine Lord realm, he displayed the splitting heaven splitting earth hand even more smoothly. The power was clearly different too. With a slap like this, the fiendish Yunling fourth was directly smacked flying. Not good. This low-ranked Divine Lord is a little strong. Being directly smacked flying by Knight Sorrow, Yunling fourth immediately gave a loud roar. Knight Sorrow's paw made him feel like he was facing the Divine King. The disparity in strength even made him feel despair. Ha! How strong can a low-ranked Divine Lord be? I think that it's because you haven't fought for several decades, your strength declined. Seeing Yunling fourth suffer a loss right away, Yunling's second mother started laughing disdainfully. "Second sister, don't be careless. He's really very strong." Seeing many brothers laughing, not placing Knight Sorrow in their eyes at all, Yunling fourth immediately said in a great rage. "Ha! Fourth brother is really interesting. After suffering a loss, he's starting to find excuses." Yunling eldest brother also laughed. At this point, they still did not take Knight Sorrow seriously. One of them even teased, "You're not bad at all. You've beaten our fourth brother to such a state. We're very happy. Maybe we'll let you off today." "Let me off. You guys are really overjoyed. Night Sorrow smiled, then took out the Samsara Heavenly Halberd and prepared to attack again. King Grade Divine Artifact. There's a King Grade Divine Artifact. This low-ranked Divine Lord doesn't look simple. Seeing that Night Sorrow's flying artifact was King Grade, the Samsara Heavenly Halberd that he took out was also King Grade. The originally arrogant Yunling's second mother's expression became slightly more serious. One of the people who had just teased Night Sorrow laughed and said, "As long as we activate the array, we can even deal with the low-ranked Divine King. Why should we be afraid of a low-ranked Divine Lord?" That's true. Yunling's second mother nodded and ordered, "No matter what, since he's not the fated one, let's attack. Let's finish him off first." 2 King Grade Divine Artifacts are rare treasures. Alright. Attack. He can injure fourth brother with one attack. His strength should not be simple. Everyone, pay more attention. Eldest Yunling said, then took out a 7-foot rake from his spatial artifact and slammed it toward Night Sorrow. Seeing that their eldest brother had attacked, the other Divine Lords stopped talking and used their own abilities to attack Night Sorrow. After advancing to Divine Lord, I wonder how powerful the Green Rock's soul-splitting roar will be. Facing the siege of 12 Divine Lords, Night Sorrow immediately used the Green Rock's soul-splitting roar's third roar, Break Reincarnation. After all, this was a group attack move, and the effect of group attacks was very good. Just as he roared, Night Sorrow used the Samsara Heavenly Halberd to use the Roaring Flames Demon Subduing. Both moves were group attacks, and both had the effect of attacking one's soul. The 12 Divine Lords who were attacking Night Sorrow were all sent flying when he used the Green Rock soul-splitting roar. When the Roaring Flames Demon Subduing was used, the weakest few even wailed in pain. It was only now that everyone realized how terrifying Night Sorrow was. Yunling's second mother immediately shouted, "Eldest brother, this Divine Lord is too strong. Quick, activate the Heaven and Earth Array." "You don't have to tell me that." Eldest Yunling, who was defeated by Night Sorrow in one move, was an invincible Divine Lord ranked 73rd on the Divine Lord list. He could not even withstand one roar from Night Sorrow, so he naturally knew how strong his opponent was. As he spoke, he silently recited a mysterious incantation. The incantation he chanted turned into runes and floated into the sky. Chapter 27:13. The originally layered mountain peaks changed appearance in an instant, seemingly transforming into one heavenly pillar after another, spanning between heaven and earth. Above the enormous heavenly pillars was a cloudless azure sky for thousands of miles. On the ground, the originally lush green grass and trees were all gone without a trace. Replacing them were massive numbers of demonic beasts. Seems like the plants all became demonic beasts. Taking the scene before her eyes, Long Tianqing immediately opened her mouth to warn. "Yes. I can see through their main bodies." The Night Sorrow who activated the clam dragon eye answered. Although the surrounding environment changed drastically, he did not panic at all. But right at this time, Night Sorrow suddenly felt that the surrounding heaven and earth was absorbing the divine essence energy within his body. He immediately asked in puzzlement, "What's going on?" "The surrounding heaven and earth is actually absorbing the power within my body." "What?" "In that case, this place is the Heaven and Earth Spirit Gathering Grand Array." Hearing Night Sorrow's words, the Long Tianqing inside the vast heaven pagoda immediately exclaimed in shock. "What's the Heaven and Earth Spirit Gathering Grand Array?" Night Sorrow immediately asked in puzzlement. The Heaven and Earth Spirit Gathering Grand Array is a special array formed by Heaven and Earth's grand momentum. Normally, what's below this kind of array formation isn't simple. Long Tianqing explained and continued, for example, a Heaven and Earth Spirit Gathering Grand Array that appeared once had a sovereign corpse below. In the end, this sovereign corpse virtually revived. At that time, the sovereigns of that era made a move together and thoroughly annihilated it. In that case, it's very likely that there's something below here too. Knight Sorrow asked a sentence and displayed the Samsara heavenly halberd without hesitation, stabbing a spear towards all of the Cloud Ridge 13 eagles. Each spear was a forbidden spear. Having your divine essence energy absorbed by the array formation and still dare to display your spear art like this, you're really not afraid of being sucked dry. Seeing Knight Sorrow unleash his spear so ferociously, the Cloud Ridge boss immediately mocked. He was clear what was going on with this array formation. You'd better worry about whether or not you'll die. The Knight Sorrow who stabbed out 13 spears did not thoroughly deal the killing blow, but the attacks were very ferocious. Among the Cloud Ridge 13 eagles, only the boss was an invincible Divine Lord on the Divine Lord proclamation. He barely managed to receive this attack. As for the others, they were no match for Knight Sorrow and were sent flying one after another. The one who was most seriously injured was the fourth brother of the Cloud Ridge, who had been severely injured before. After being sent flying again, he suddenly spat out a mouthful of old blood and said, "This time, you all believe me. We've kicked an iron plate." Not simple indeed. The deity realm did not have such a powerful divine sovereign. Could it be that the Divine Lord is deliberately hiding his strength? Yunling's second mother, who was also injured, asked with a puzzled expression. He is a Divine Lord, it's just that his strength is too strong. Big Boss Yunling's expression changed drastically as he said, "If I'm not wrong, it's very likely that he's Knight Sorrow who recently rose to fame in the divine realm." Knight Sorrow. The last time I heard of him, he was still a high god. The person we are facing now is at least a divine lord. Yunling's second mother said with a look of disbelief. What's impossible about that? For someone under Hegemontia's protection, breaking through is as easy as drinking cold water. Big Boss Yunling originally had a trump card that he had not used. However, after recalling some of the legends, he immediately gave up on resisting. Cupping his fists, he said, "We, the 13 eagles of the Cloud Ridge, were blind to have offended you. Tell us what to do, we admit defeat." As he spoke, he deactivated the heaven and earth energy gathering array. You surrendered so easily. Knight Sorrow did not expect the fierce-looking 13 eagles to surrender so easily. He could not help but laugh coldly. If I remember correctly, you were prepared to kill me. What do you think we should do? Since we admit defeat, we are prepared to pay a certain price. If you need anything, just tell us and we can discuss it. Big Boss Yunling said politely. Bringing it up for discussion. Isn't that bargaining? Dream on. Knight Sorrow scolded and continued, "First, teach me the origin of the array and the incantation." No. This cannot be exposed. Otherwise, we will die. Big Boss Yunling immediately retorted. If you don't tell me, you will die immediately. If you tell me, I may help you block the backlash. When Knight Sorrow said this, he released a dense amount of merit power, showing that he was a merit divine lord and that he was a man of his word. You are Knight Sorrow? Big Boss Yunling immediately asked when he saw Knight Sorrow release his merit power. That's me. You can tell me what you want to know. No matter what, I will protect you. The 13 eagles of the Cloud Ridge reeked of blood. Knight Sorrow originally thought that it was because they had killed too many people. However, after the array was activated, he realized that it was because there was a dense smell of blood below. The thick smell of blood on their bodies was because they had cultivated here for a long time and had accidentally absorbed it into their bodies. As such, Knight Sorrow determined that there was a very dense smell of blood here. Big Boss, why don't you tell us? What if he can save us? At this moment, second mother Yunling suddenly advised. No. That senior once said that we can only tell this matter to the fated person. Big Boss Yunling shook his head and said, he did not recognize this array. He is not the fated person. If we tell him, we will definitely die. Big Boss. Second Mother Yunling wanted to say something but did not say it. What is the fated person that you are talking about? Night Sorrow heard everyone's conversation and immediately asked. To be able to say the name of the array is the fated person. You are definitely not. The other two with you are also not. Big Boss Yunling sighed. Although I didn't recognize what kind of formation it was, a friend of mine said the name of the formation. Night Sorrow immediately remembered Long Tianqing's words and asked, is this array called the Heaven and Earth Spirit Gathering Array? Yes. That's the name. Where is your friend? When Big Boss Yunling heard this name, his eyes immediately lit up. Senior Tianqing, come out. Night Sorrow immediately summoned Long Tianqing out from the clear sky pagoda. Divine King. You actually have the Divine King in your spatial artifact. Seeing Night Sorrow summon the Divine King Long Tianqing out, Big Boss Yunling was stunned. Divine King or Divine Monarch, there is no difference to you. Either way, I can crush you. Night Sorrow said domineeringly and continued, you can tell Senior Tianqing about this place. Senior. What made you tell me the name of this formation? Big Boss Yunling looked at Long Tianqing and asked nervously. I said it. Long Tianqing said casually, but there was a sense of dignity in her voice. To ordinary divine monarchs, the Divine King did indeed have a lot of pressure. It's good that it's you. Quick, follow me and kneel down to our benefactor. After Long Tianqing confirmed it, Big Boss Yunling immediately knelt down and kowtowed. What is the meaning of this? Chapter 27:14. We have been waiting here for more than 10 reincarnations, waiting for you to save us. First Brother Yunling knelt on the ground and bowed sincerely. Back then, we were captured by a terrifying existence. We helped guard this place and were unable to leave. It was not until more than 10 reincarnations ago that a powerful senior appeared here. He instructed us to wait for the fated person. Terrifying existence. What happened? Tell me from the beginning to the end. Long Tianqing signaled the 13 eagles of Yunling to stand up and speak. After First Brother Yunling stood up, he looked at Second Mother Yunling and said, Second Mother, you are eloquent. Why don't you tell us? Yes, Big Brother. Second Mother Yunling bowed to Long Tianqing and said, we did not know each other at first. We were rogue cultivators scattered all over the divine realm. However, we were captured by a terrifying existence who failed the sovereign tribulation and brought here. When he was about to die, he activated the Heaven and Earth Great Formation and asked us to guard this place and wait for him to wake up. You mean that there is a terrifying existence who failed the sovereign tribulation below? Is he dead or alive? Long Tianqing frowned and asked. In fact, this matter did not have much to do with her and Night Sorrow. Moreover, they had urgent matters to attend to. After all, it was better to save Wu Lingfei as soon as possible. She did lose her life at that time. However, we still feel that she is not completely dead. After so many reincarnations, I am afraid that she is not far from being revived. Second Mother Yunling said in a low voice. Long Tianqing and Night Sorrow frowned slightly when they heard this. She added, both of you look like kind people. Please save us. We have no choice but to help him guard this array formation. However, from your actions, it seems that you are looking forward to the battle. Night Sorrow said coldly when he thought of Fourth Brother Yunling and the others' reactions when they met him. Instantly, the atmosphere became cold. First Brother Yunling saw that the situation was not good and quickly explained, actually, it is not our nature to be like this. It is just that after staying in this formation for too long, it will naturally make us irritable. We cannot die even if we want to, so we can only endure it. What do you mean by that? Long Tianqing asked in puzzlement when she heard this. In this formation, even if we are killed, we will be reborn after 30,000 years. This is also the reason why we have always maintained 13 people. Yunling explained angrily, it looks good, but in fact, it is a great torture for us. This also caused a huge change in everyone's temperament. You are pitiful people. But from the sound of it, he should have done a lot of evil. Long Tianqing gazed at them and said, give me a reason to save all of you. We can swear that after being saved, we will serve our benefactor forever and never do anything evil again. Boss Yunling knelt on the ground again and said, "Oh." However, before Long Tianqing could respond, many demonic beasts, which had been transformed from plants, pounced on them. These overwhelming demonic beasts didn't attack Night Sorrow and Long Tianqing. Instead, they pounced on the 13 Cloud Ridge Eagles. In the face of these demonic beasts, although they kept resisting, they were still crazily bitten. Not long after, he was bitten beyond recognition. Let's save them. They look too miserable. Long Tianqing couldn't bear to see the 13 Cloud Ridge Eagles suffer such inhumane torture. Night Sorrow looked at Boss Yunling and said, weren't you the one who activated the formation and turned these plants into demonic beasts? Why didn't you stop the formation? I didn't have the ability to stop the formation. I could only wait. They didn't attack us in the past. Boss Yunling, who had demonic beasts of all sizes crawling on his body, said intermittently. It seems that they were left behind by the person below to counter you. When they noticed that you were acting strangely, they immediately attacked. Night Sorrow made his own judgment and sighed. Although I feel sorry for Auntie Fei, I can't bear to see them being tortured like this. Senior Tianqing, let's do something. At the very least, we should help them get rid of these demonic beasts. These demonic beasts are too cruel. If we don't do something, it won't make sense. Long Tianqing looked at the bloodthirsty demonic beasts and said hesitantly, but how can we help? Let me do it. Night Sorrow said as he gathered the power of merit and shot it at the 13 Cloud Ridge Eagles. The power of merit split into 13 dragons and wrapped around the 13 Cloud Ridge Eagles, purifying the demonic beasts that were wreaking havoc. The demonic beasts were purified by the power of merit and turned into many tiny bits of power of merit, which were absorbed by Night Sorrow. Although there were many of them, they didn't help Night Sorrow much. Thank you, benefactor. After being saved, the 13 Cloud Ridge Eagles immediately knelt down and bowed to Night Sorrow. At this point, they didn't care who was the fated one. What is the chant to activate the formation? Night Sorrow, who had saved the 13 Cloud Ridge Eagles, asked. Hearing this, Boss Yunling looked troubled and said, benefactor, although I can activate the formation, I can't recite or write the chant. I see. Night Sorrow originally wanted to learn the chant of this natural formation, but he gave up when he heard this. He said, I have urgent matters to attend to now. Since you have already gotten rid of these demonic beasts, wait for us here. After I finish what I have to do, I will come back and save you. However, as you said, after being saved, you have to work for me and not do anything evil. Of course, of course. Hearing Yi Shang's words, everyone from the 13 Yunling Eagles immediately revealed a trace of anticipation. Yunling Old 4, who had been injured by Yi Shang, nodded and bowed. Great benefactor Yi, I won't hide it from you. It won't be easy to save us, but at the same time, you can obtain rare resources. Resources? What's going on? Night Sorrow was puzzled. That terrifying existence was very rich when she was alive. If we can find her corpse. Boss Yunling started to explain. Hearing this, Knight Sorrow immediately interrupted him and said, "A gentleman earns money in a proper way. Let's forget about digging graves. Then we will wait for the two benefactors to come again." Boss Yunling wasn't a person who dilly-dallied. After saying this, he sent Knight Sorrow and Long Tianqing off. As for the others, they were reluctant to part with them. "Don't be like this, everyone. We will be back." Long Tianqing sighed when she saw everyone's pitiful eyes and continued on with Knight Sorrow. Chapter 27:15. Long Tianqing looked at Knight Sorrow and said, "You're saying that the divine king who failed to break through to the sovereign realm isn't actually dead? Instead, he's using this formation to recover his strength?" "I do have that feeling." Knight Sorrow, who was also flying into the distance, nodded in confirmation. He continued, "Just now in the formation, I sensed a trace of a strange aura from those small demonic beasts. Those little monsters seem to be his eyes. If he's really close to the sovereign realm, even if we want to save him, I'm afraid we won't be able to," Long Tianqing said with some disappointment. She didn't want to break her promise, but in comparison, her life was still more important. There was no need to sacrifice herself and Knight Sorrow just to save the 13 Yunling eagles. "I feel that instead of saving the 13 Yunling eagles, it's better to save the being below." Under Long Tianqing's astonished gaze, Knight Sorrow said, "I have some conjectures, but I can't be sure yet. Once we save Auntie Fei, we can confirm them. If our conjectures are correct, saving that being might be a good thing." "Okay. Since you have the same idea, I'll cooperate." Long Tianqing nodded. Although she didn't know why Knight Sorrow wanted to save the being below, she was still prepared to cooperate. "I'll cooperate as well," Jin Ya also said from within the clear sky pagoda. However, he then added, "But I only know how to use brute force. I don't know anything about mysterious formations." You don't need to know anything about formations." Knight Sorrow smiled in response to Jin Ya and summoned Long Tianqing's king-grade flying divine artifact again. However, after this incident, Yi Linghuan and Yi Wuyo didn't come out to drink anymore. After passing by several bustling cities, Knight Sorrow followed Long Tianqing to Lingyun City in the Azura Divine Realm. Lingyun was now very powerful. The city he controlled was even more powerful than the Purple Mansion Divine Lord, who he had once tried to curry favor with. His status was second only to the Divine King. "Send someone to inform Lingyun Divine Lord that Knight Sorrow has come to challenge him." When they arrived at the entrance of the Lingyun City Lord Mansion, Long Tianqing immediately asked someone to pass the message. There's no need to pass the message. I have already sensed your arrival." Before the guards could move, Ling Yun's figure appeared in front of Knight Sorrow and Long Tianqing. "Ling Yun. I'm here to find you. Let's settle what happened back then," Knight Sorrow said with a fake smile. Ling Yun was one of the few people he hated so much. "Are you Knight Sorrow? The creator of heaven and earth was pretty strong. But if you want to challenge me, you're definitely courting death. No divine lord is a match for me," Ling Yun said arrogantly before bursting into laughter. At the same time, Lu Li, who had appeared with him before, slowly walked out of the city lord's mansion. Seeing Knight Sorrow appear, she smiled and said, "I didn't expect that your strength increased so quickly. In just a few short years, he has already grown from a feather god to a divine lord. You're not slow either. You're also at the divine lord realm." Knight Sorrow glanced at Lu Li and said with a somewhat complicated expression. Speaking of which, Ling Yun was prepared to attack him back then and kill him directly. At the crucial moment, it was Lu Li's one sentence that made Ling Yun stop, indirectly saving his life. However, it was also precisely because of her that Wu Lingfei was abducted here. In reality, the Wu Lingfei that we brought is also close to Divine Lord. Lu Li said with a smile and continued, as long as she consummates with the City Lord, she can break through to Divine Lord through dual cultivation. Bastard! What did you say? Hearing the word consummate, Night Sorrow immediately flew into a rage. Ha ha ha. What she said is exactly what I want to do. Wu Lingfei's talent is outstanding. She's the best furnace to help me increase my strength. Ling Yun laughed arrogantly. Originally, I wanted to keep you for a while longer. You're courting death yourself. Where are we fighting? You should remember what you said before, right? Night Sorrow opened his mouth and repeated what Long Tianqing said. This matter of arranging a battle with you was determined long ago. This seat naturally won't go back on my word. A trace of evil intent was revealed between Ling Yun's brows. He said coldly, "You're merely a dog that this seat spared. Now, you've become something. A little interesting. Our decisive battle is a month later. Because this seat will make use of this 1 month's time to invite all kinds of honored guests. Let all of them witness how I'll torture and kill you, the creator of heaven and earth. Okay. I'll wait for you for a month. A month later, I'll take your life." Night Sorrow replied coldly, then looked at Long Tianqing and said, "Senior Tianqing, let's go." "Okay. Let's find an inn to stay." Long Tianqing nodded her head. Following that, the two people stayed in a inn called Vermilion Bird Inn. The environment here was very good. Night Sorrow entered the vast Heaven Pagoda for a period of time after this and carried out the final sprint. In the contact earlier, he discovered that Ling Yun was somewhat different from before. Not only did his strength become much stronger, his aura also changed somewhat. It was as if there was another person hidden in his body, giving people a very sinister feeling. What Night Sorrow did not expect was that there were still 10 days until the showdown. Azurites suddenly came to the Vermilion Bird Inn to find Night Sorrow. "What business do you have?" After Night Sorrow got the message, he walked out of the vast Heaven Pagoda to see the other party. "I came to tell you that the current Ling Yun is already not the Ling Yun back then. Or rather, only half of the Ling Yun back then." Azurite's brows carried a trace of sorrow. "What do you mean by this?" The other party's words were roughly the same as Night Sorrow's perception. He hurriedly opened his mouth to ask. "In reality, this matter of dealing with you, Ling Yun was the one being used from beginning to end. Back then, he plundered your source reward under someone else's instructions. After plundering your destiny back, he was completely controlled by the other party." Azurite said with some hatred. "Why are you telling me this?" Night Sorrow asked expressionlessly. Azurite sighed and said, "Although Ling Yun isn't some good person, he's my husband after all. I, Azurite, don't have the ability to take revenge. I only hope that you can kill that person. At present, it looks like you're the only one who has a chance to kill him. However, his strength has already surpassed your imagination. I'm here to give you a reminder." Night Sorrow nodded his head and asked, "Strength beyond imagination, what does this mean?" "That person is one of the strategists of the All-Heaven Sovereign Manor. His methods can be said to be heavenly. When fighting with him, the slightest carelessness will cause one to fall for it. I think that this 1 month's time is him setting up a formation. Or perhaps he's brewing some conspiracy." Azurite voiced her judgment. "You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."